it live from the Hellmouth. It's the Popular Cinema Podcast. I'm your co-host Payne,
And I'm Bill.
and bonjour. Welcome to episode 43 of PCP.
Doesn't that it rhymes? Look at that. We're on our game today. Right?
Oh, Bill, I just love that song. I just love playing that song. I just start diddy bopping to it every time it comes on.
Really? Okay. All right.
How you
Works
doing,
for
my
me.
friend?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. I am sitting in studio. I can't wait till you see it. I think you come up. Is it this weekend or next weekend?
It's 2 weekends. So
2 weekends. Yes. I have a bird's nest building inside of my window, right, right up here.
and why is that?
Because I cracked like half the window. It's like a double pane glass, and I cracked the outside of it. And apparently, the birds have decided to just start bringing shit up and start building a nest.
Better birds than rats.
Oh, good enough. Anyway, I want you to know that I started watching something on HBO this weekend.
Okay.
It's called The Jinx. Um, it's like a 6 episode documentary regarding Robert Durst.
Oh yeah, the attorney from OJ's trial.
No, no, it's not the attorney.
Oh,
It's
who is it?
Robert Durst. Apparently, he's like an heir to a family real estate fortune. He's worth like 100 million, but like 20 years ago, like he got, whatever, he was married and his wife disappeared and has never been located. Um, kind of an eccentric guy. They haven't been able to find his wife, but some evidence seems some sort of foul play maybe with him. But then later on, years later, he's got some sort of roommate, not roommate, but he chopped up some sort of his next door neighbor, actually dismembered the body and threw it into the water. Claimed that the reason why he dismembered the body is because it was in self-defense, because the neighbor came into his apartment and was kind of waving a gun and things got out of hand. So, like, I shot him in self-defense and I didn't want to bring any more media attention to me, so I just cut up the body and threw it in the water. And he got off. So I've got 2 more episodes to go, but I'm into this true crime thing. Am I and I guess the whole point of this, not that you care about the Jinx, is that I was watching it with my woman, and we have finished 4 episodes. We're sort of binge watching. She's into it, I'm into it, and so we're polishing off episode after episode.
So let me just
What?
throw a pause in here for 1 second while we're on this issue of binge watching with your girlfriend. So you guys can binge watch episodes of this Robert Durst murder story and what is it, My 600-Pound Life and Hoarders or whatever they have that on that show, TLC. But one show that has 28 or 9 episodes in it, this becomes impossible for the two of you to get through like 2 episodes back to back before falling asleep.
I mean, let's be quite honest. Season 2 of Twin Peaks was canceled for a reason. Okay?
You weren't even on season 2 when the two of you started falling asleep on the show. So it was during episode 2 of season 1 or something, I thought.
Shit needs to be exciting. In order to be binge watch, it implies that somehow it's so exciting that you can't put it down, that you're just like one after the other. I mean, it's like chocolate. I mean, do I have to go over Sense8 with you?
No, but I mean, I guess people binge watch Luke Cage and Daredevil, and I don't find them particularly stimulating.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
I like Luke Cage, but I'm not going to exactly say it's like a mile a minute as far as the pacing.
Anyway, I'm moving on. My point of the
Okay.
matter is, I left her house. I was going to be staying the night at her place,
Right?
and we had finished episode 4, and I was going to come home and let Scooties and Fergs outside.
Right.
It doesn't take me long to get from her place to my place and my place back to her place. So by the time I got back, I walked in and she had this look on her face, this guilty look, and she had already started episode 5.
Why?
That's exactly what I said. And she goes, I haven't got too far in it, and I can tell you what's happened. You haven't
But
missed much.
didn't she know that you were coming back?
Yes, absolutely.
So
But
then
she,
why would she
she,
continue watching?
she couldn't contain herself. She got 2/3 through the episode. She goes, it took you so long. And it was almost as though she had no other options. There was no other options. No, let's go fix a bowl of cereal. Let me go fold some clothes. Let me just throw on the news. There was nothing. It was almost like episode 5 was like, fuck Jay. Fuck pain.
But you
That's
were
it.
coming back.
I know.
I mean, it'd be different if she was like going to cheat on you, and because you were gone for the evening, and she was like, "Well, I want to round out my evening with an episode, and I'll just rewatch the episode with him later, or whatever." But you were coming right back.
I know.
Doesn't this make you wonder, like, what happens when you leave her house in the middle of the night, and like suddenly the bed's empty?
This is I think this is common with TV couples who watch television programs. I know there has to be ground rules. I haven't seen any articles on there on like Yahoo or whatever else, but there has to be something about couple shows and the rules and regulations that go into watching them.
I
Do you
can tell
think
you
there's some
what
people that
rules
are
we
just like
apply.
this? What?
We have rules here, and we don't. There's no watching. We have, like I told you before, we have shows that we watch together. I have shows I watch on my own. He has shows he watches on his own. His shows do not interest me in the least. My shows do not interest him in the least. Our shows are our shows. You do not watch our shows without the other person. That's a no no. That's a no no.
Have
When
you ever
it's
caught Chris coming in and watching one of your shows together? Has that ever
no,
happened?
no, because it doesn't happen. Because I've got this shit on lock. Because when it's time for us to watch something like RuPaul's Drag Race or Twin Peaks or Agents of Shield or Haves and Have Nots, that shit's it's an understood rule. You do not watch without me. You've got plenty of other shit to watch. He's got Judge Judy every day. He's got old repeats on retro TV or my TV or whatever. Law and Order out the wazoo. All of that's fine. I could care less. I watch Star Wars cartoons. He could care less. I watch comic book men. He could care less. But those shows are not to be touched. It's just an understood thing.
I think it
I think you
happens.
need to sit this woman down and have a discussion with her. I
I
don't know.
mean, it was
Maybe she
very
could put
funny though, because the look on the face is like, you know what, we can just pick up. And I'm in my mind, I'm like, we cannot pick up two
no.
thirds through the
You should have
episode.
made her rewatch the whole first 2/3 of the show. That'll teach her. That, that's what you need to. She needs to understand the rules.
I think my sister had an incident like this where I think they were supposed to be watching something. I can't remember it was, maybe House of Cards or something else like that. And then she came in and Jonathan had polished off 2 or 3 episodes and he was just like, oh, you can come in. And she's just like, forget it. The night's over. It's ruined.
Right, because that's ignorant. If you have something that you share with somebody and then suddenly it's like you go into a restaurant with somebody and you both have these juicy T-bone steaks and you get up to go to the bathroom and you come back and your steak is like gone and like your partner's like tapping the corner of their mouth with a napkin. What what the fuck? I mean, I don't understand this. But I think this needs to be totally discussed. This is like deal breaker time. If Chris watched our shows without me, we would have problems.
Well, we've reached an agreement that I'm going to watch episode 5, and then she's going to wait, and we're going to watch episode 6 together. But she's giving me a warning that she can't wait to finish watching episode 6 of the Jinx. So I think that's kind of like I'm on notice that I can't be dilly dallying with this. Like there's no dilly dally.
Right, like the way she used to dilly dally with the Twin Peaks watching. There's none of that. Is that what we're
Well,
doing?
we weren't both. We were both on the same page. We weren't rushing to watch that. We're
Really?
busy
Because
people.
somehow, after you stopped watching it together, you burned through the rest of the series in like 2 days. It took you
Well, I
like
think you
6 weeks
told
to watch the first 3 seasons or
well,
first three
well,
episodes.
you've been kind of pumping it up that it was must-watch television, and it actually wasn't must-watch. That's kind of the.
Well, if you're not a Peaks freak, I can't fix that about you, but it is must
Oh
watch.
no, I'm down with Twin Peaks, but let's just call like some of the episodes are kind of weak.
Well, we're in the last stretch. I think we have 3 left to go. So tonight we're going to watch one. Then we'll have the last 2 episodes and then the Fire Walk with Me movie. So I can
Ooh,
tell
that's
you of all the series we watch, it's probably up in the top 3 of ones that like I'm on a priority to finish viewing. So it's keeping my interest. I can't speak for
what are
everybody
the
else.
other top two?
Agents of Shield is a definitely must watch because after a lackluster first 2/3 of the season, these last 7 episodes that they're using to wrap up the season are probably some of the best they've ever done. So Agents of Shield is up there. Um, RuPaul's Drag Race is up there for obvious reasons. So
Anyway, so I got the script here. It's a little bit thin, but that's fine because I'm ready to attack the rest of my afternoon. My woman is working, so that means I have the rest of the afternoon after the show to maybe go get some Chipotle, try to find some other movie to watch. I do have Collateral Beauty with Will Smith, but
how come it
I
sounds like there are people booing outside your house?
that was actually it was meant to sound like this.
That's better. Okay.
Yes, yes, Collateral Beauty. So I'm not in the mood to watch that Smolch tonight, but I don't know what I'm going to do. I have
Why don't
no
you just
idea what
watch
I'm
it and
going
maybe it'll surprise you. Maybe it'll be one of those hidden gems that you're always talking about.
to do.
You never know
Like
till
I
you
said,
try.
it's going to be on a 10-minute. You better impress me. It's going to be like speed dating. It's movie speed dating. It's got to come in there. As soon as it says something rude to me within the first 2 minutes, I'm going to ring the bell and be like, switch.
Well, I think that's what you should do. If it's not speaking to you, I wouldn't waste 2 hours on it.
Okay, let's move on. We've got some things to discuss. I mean, it's been 2 weeks the last time we talked here. I was trying to beef it up. There's been a lot of news, there's been a lot of trailers that have dropped. I know you want to discuss some things about The Last Jedi trailer because that's near and dear to your heart. How many times have you watched The Last Jedi trailer?
At least 30, maybe more.
Oh, does it keep getting better each time you watch it?
Yeah, I mean, it keep looking for little clues about, where the story might be going and, tying it into the
The-
other.
I want you to save it for me, but have you come up with some new insights from your like
Well, I
Rebel
told you,
Underground?
really, I told you there are some issues that I want to discuss about where I think they're going with the future of Star Wars based on this trailer.
Okay.
So we'll
All
get
right.
to that later.
All right. Well, here, let me add this in here. This is one of those articles that was out at USA Today, and I'm going
Oh,
to
hold
pose
on
it.
one second before
Sure.
we continue, because I think I know where you're going, and I meant to mention this in the pre-show, and I forgot. Um, that thing about the Batman movies, that's total fake news, by the way.
Fake news. How do you
It's
know?
fake news because it's
How do
been
you know
debunked.
that's not the real news, Bill?
Because it's been debunked by the people who are making the
How do you
movies.
know that the debunking is not fake news?
Do you honestly think they're going to put out 4 Batman movies in 12 months? You really think that's going to happen?
Bill, I can't deal with this in this world that we live in here. I mean, is there a true website? How do you avoid?
What you do is you go to a reputable search engine like
Oh,
Google.
what do you think I'm going? Where do you think I'm going to like, you know, prison news, prison movie news,
I don't
liar
know where you're going,
news
but when
station?
it smells like crap, you might think it possibly might have a chance of being crap. Logically thinking, if you know it takes 2 to 3 years to make any of these movies, you know that they've gone through 27 iterations of this Batman script, and everybody's sort of dragging themselves to sort of get out the right movie on the script. Somehow they banged out 3 other ones going into release in the same year as that one, and 3 more.
Bill, these movies cost hundreds of millions of dollars. If I'm a studio, I have this money just sitting there like a pocket change. I just throw it out and say, "You film over here on the East Coast, you on the West Coast, and you over in Scotland." Boom, done. Where
Okay.
there's a will, there's a way.
So you missed the article, which is the second thing that comes up on Google that says DC Films boss hilariously debunks rumor for 4 Batman movies in 2019. You missed
You
that,
know,
huh?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're disrespecting the PC podcast right now. You know why? It's because I
No,
have other
I
things to
expect
do.
you to
I am
vet the
cultivating life
freaking
over here,
script.
Bill. I'm getting the studio up and running. I'm putting in the plugs and the X's and the Y's, and you're sitting over there in your minority report chair, pulling news out from left and right, cross referencing it.
I'm just saying, we're not going to just roll with every old silly story that comes through, right? I mean, we are a reputable place for news and interesting discussion. We're not just some kind of like the weekly world news or the globe of podcasts, right?
The
So if you
globe.
can't cross verify two different sources for the information, I suggest you cross it off the list and consult me
Y-
first.
You know what? The National Enquirer, that's what we're going to be. Maybe I should just call that episode. We'll call it Fake News Episode 43. I don't
That's
know. Come up with
that's fine.
something.
I'm just saying it's been debunked, so it's not happening.
Are you
So,
disappointed that it's not happening? Didn't you want to
well,
believe?
I don't want to believe because it's ridiculous. It's just it can't possibly happen, and no, I don't think it would ever happen. So when I read it, I thought, oh, this is bullshit. But then obviously they came out and sort of debunked it anyway. So
I like that. You have critical thinking skills within the movie entertainment news world.
well, when something seems so ridiculous, it probably. I mean, there are things that fake news that you can be fooled.
Like
I was
what?
fooled by the
So
Kingsman
outside,
teaser
is there
trailer this
anything
morning.
else? If they came out and said, you know what, we're going to put Mark Hamill and Sylvester Stallone and Brad Pitt in a movie called Cucamonga Jaga, you'd be like, oh, that doesn't sound right. That sounds fake to me.
I'm gonna say if they're gonna say they're gonna release 11 Superman movies in between now and 2021, I'm gonna think twice about whether that's real. That's what I'm saying. Okay, if they're gonna
Okay.
go, we resurrected Christopher Reeve digitally and we're gonna release him and Henry Cavill in like a Superman team up movie, I'm gonna go and look a little sideways. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Is there anything else on here that's fake news I would need to be aware of that you could have probably just
Not
sent this to me in an email?
right. Not that I can think of, but that was the big one because I was kind of surprised that you were fooled by it, really. But okay. Hello.
Yeah, I'm looking for my boo chart for you.
A little late on the
All right.
uptake with that one.
All right. So back to USA Today here. I read this article over there and it kind of got me thinking, and I know we've kind of touched upon this in our own private conversations, but I want to bring it to you since this seems to be happening more and more often, or at least we start to see it happening more often. Does adding top-notch thespians to popcorn movies add gravitas and credibility to such films? And let me give you three examples out there, Bill, and then you can give me your 2 cents. We've got Oscar award winning actress Helen Mirren appearing in The Fate of the Furious. You also have Oscar winner Anthony Hopkins appearing in Transformers The Last Night. He was just recently in Collider. I'm sure nobody's really even heard of that. Then you got somebody like, what's his name? One of our favorites, Patrick Stewart. He's going to be playing the poop emoji in the Emoji movie that's coming out. So, what do you think? These are actors that have storied careers. They're respected within the acting community, and they seem to be doing these movies that seem to be, I don't know, low rent. But does this help these low rent movies? Does it sit there and give them some sort of like, hey, it can't be bad? It's got Helen Mirren, Anthony Hopkins, and Patrick Stewart rolling through.
It helps them pay the rent. It helps them buy their baubles and Porsches and whatever else they want to, support in their lifestyle. So if that's the measure of success, being financially solvent, then obviously that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is it does, I think, air a lend of legitimacy to what might be considered somewhat illegitimate in some circles types of movies. And I think people have a tendency to go if they respect somebody's career or you know talent, um, then they sort of associate them with a certain level of quality, and then therefore it might pull in some people who would not otherwise necessarily go see it. The emoji poop thing, what are you going to say? I mean, maybe he has grandchildren that like emojis. Who knows why people do these things? Um, but I don't think it necessarily hurts as long as, it's not really super distracting in the movie. And if they're really good at their craft, then they can do it in a way that doesn't become super distracting, I think. Um, Kevin Feige gave out a lot of interviews this weekend because they're starting to ramp up the publicity tour for Guardians. And he said, we've had some pretty high caliber actors in our Marvel films so far. Robert Redford, obviously, being one that sticks out in my mind right now. But he said, look for more of that, in the future. Um, Michael Douglas is another one from Ant Man. I don't think that that's a problem. I didn't have a problem with Michael Douglas in Ant Man, and I didn't have a problem with Robert Redford in Captain America: Winter Soldier. So I think it's really a plus in most cases. Maybe in some cases, people find it, it takes them out of the movie, but I've never really experienced that myself.
That's. Yeah, I was getting a little bit like what's my blood level was rising, but the fact that you mentioned Robert Redford and Winter Soldier and Michael Douglas, okay, I'm not gonna go extreme with my opinion, but for me, I think it's kind of sad as to where we're at as a movie industry where you have these actors, who I think, and let's just say within their own acting society, um, think that they're like at the highest level, that this is what they're relegated to. I mean,
Would
when
you
you
prefer
have
they be relegated to the dustbin, which is where they would go if they
no,
weren't getting these kinds of roles?
this is my point here. This is the essential of selling out. This is where you're at. You're selling out. Sure, you can look at it like this is the only game in town right now. It's almost like you want to do Shakespeare at the park, and before you would get there and people would clap for you and be like, this is great, and you get all these accolades. But now nobody's showing up at Shakespeare at the park except some 80-year-old man with his 79-year-old wife, and they're hobbling in and they're paying their ticket prices, and nobody else is watching it. But everybody's down at the big Cinemarkplex on the big screen watching trucks crash into one another and have all these special effects and giant robots, and they're like, this is where it's at now. So if you want to sit there and do anything that's popular or make any more money, then this is where you got to go. You're selling out to a degree.
I don't think it's
And
selling out personally. As an actor, your biggest asset that you have is yourself. And in order for an actor to stay relevant and vibrant, they need to be steadily employed in front of the most eyeballs that's possible for them to be seen by. Because if they are considered to be active, the academy has now even changed the rules that if you haven't worked in the last 10 years, you don't get to vote anymore. But if you do the emoji movie and you're the voice of the poop, we're going to send you a ballot. Okay. So I think the only kind of really sad actor, I think, is an unemployed one. And as long as somebody's willing to pay you for your craft, I think that it should certainly be up to the person to decide whether they want to do that kind of thing or not. And, people do all kinds of shit for different reasons, but I don't think it's bad in principle. I think it's smart of older actors who can be put out to pasture in certain respects.
Well, I
to
think
stay
it's
out in front of
interesting
the
in terms
board.
of like what you're asking the actors to repurpose themselves. You know, you're no longer the young Tiger Beat stud that you once were, and so now you're trending towards more older roles, and so you try to embrace that gracefully. I get it, but there's
If
certain
you
things to where like what we're living in this day in society is the big money makers, the tent poles, as you always tell me, are these giant, massive behemoth of movies that they put in. And so nobody's going to sit there and go really see these indie films. So they sit there and go, "What's this movie called?" It's called The Homeless and the Tree. Okay, and you're like, "Oh." Or we could do this Transformers movie with this giant robot. You could play like a scientist. And it's just like, oh. And here's the script. Oh, this is my line. Yes, Optimus. These missiles are made of hard tipped steel. They can blow up anything. Boom, boom. I mean, oh, it,
yes,
it, it just
and
it just makes
then
your toes curl with like
no,
the
no,
script
because
writing. Come on.
after you do that line in Transformers, and you go to your mailbox in 3 weeks, and you get the check out of there that says $8 million with some zeros that just keep going to the end of the paper. You're going to be just fine when you go to the bank and you've got your rent bills due and your daughter's tuition for her child
So
due at her
so where
private
you're
school.
where you're coming from, it's all about the cash with you, then,
Well,
right?
here's the thing, Jay. If you
There's
want to
nothing
do it,
about the crap. It's all about
if
the
you want
cash.
if you want to do it for the craft, go do Shakespeare in the Park over the summer. Go to something on Broadway or something. There's nothing that doing a line in the Transformers movie is going to prevent you from doing some kind of real theatrical stretching, doing some other shit. But here's the problem: no one gives a fuck when you do that shit. No one cares, and no one's going to see it. So you get your 8 million for your line in the Emoji Movie, and then also you get a whole new generation of people who are going to remember the sound of your voice from that movie, and the next time they see you in something goes, is that the guy from Emoji Movie? And boom, you're still out there, you're still vibrant, you're still relevant, you're still employable. And then you go and do some kind of like off Broadway production of like Hello Dolly, and like 5 people come, the show closes in 3 weeks. Which one would you rather do?
Mm.
Maybe you can do both, and that's the sweet spot. But I think there's an argument to be made for doing stuff that, whether it's something that you think would be worthy or not, keeps people out in the front of the pop culture.
I think we're going to move on because it kind of like flows into the next topic here. But I just think generally, if part of your brand that you built up is kind of based on, yeah, I don't know, the
When
highest
you're
echelon
74
of your
years old,
craft, and
when
then
you're
all of a
74
sudden
years
you're
old,
you're doing lesser movies at some point in times, you've fallen. You've fallen to a degree, and it's a
when you're
little bit jarring.
74 years old and somebody wants to pay you $5 million to speak 4 lines in a movie, fuck yes, you're going to say yes. And then you're going to spend 6 weeks, in Turks and Caicos getting over the drama of it, with people bringing you Mai Tais at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. I'm on my high horse. Is that what I'm doing? Am I on a high
I'm
horse?
just, you have every right to be there. I'm just saying I understand other reasons why people do things that you might not see artistic merit in.
Okay. Well, we're going to flow into this with the money here because I saw this article in Hollywood Reporter. You have discussed this with me before, but it's more interesting when I actually finally read it. That Richard Gere is out there doing a lot of indie films. You can find a couple things where he actually plays a homeless man. I can't remember the movie on Netflix. And you're wondering, Richard Gere used to be like the young stud American gigolo back in the day, doing all these things, but he's seems to be on this indie circuit. Well, apparently he's been sidelined from bigger studio projects, and it's because of his stance on Tibet.
Yes,
Quote,
I'm sure it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that he's like 80.
well, okay, fair enough. Well, quote, there are definitely movies that I can't be in because the Chinese will say not with him. This is what Richard Gere told the Hollywood Reporter. Um, I recently had an episode where someone said they cannot finance a film with me because it would upset the Chinese. He says that China is just a power player in Hollywood. You can't make movies without China. China. Did I say it like Trump? China.
Really?
So, with the country's 6.6 billion box office totals last year, second only to the U.S., China's tight hold on the big studios' purse strings kind of prevents Gear and his stance and all this other stuff from actually entering anything else. So he's just regulated to relegated. What
Relegated.
is it? Say it
Relegated.
for me.
Relegated.
Thank you.
Sure.
To just small budget films. How do you feel about this, Bill? Is China just pushing around the small U.S. man here, or is that's just the way it is? Sometimes, if you want to make your stances, you got to pay the piper.
Yeah, I think if you want to make your stance, you have to pay the piper. I think if you are, somebody who's employable or wants to be employable, and you want to go around the world spouting off controversial things, then you have to realize there's going to be a price to pay as far as your marketability in certain places. I'm not saying for him not to be an activist. I'm just saying if that's the choice you make, then those are the sacrifices you have to make along with them. I mean, you know, you're you're like Burger King or McDonald's. You're an asset, or you are a commodity to be bought and sold in certain ways. As an actor, you are selling yourself to people, and when you have controversial opinions about stuff, people aren't going to differentiate necessarily between your controversial opinions and the actor who's playing a part in a movie. Those are the breaks.
Hmm.
I don't
All
feel bad
right.
for Richard Gere. I think he knew exactly what he was doing, and he understood that that was going to be considered, make him difficult to employ in some places.
Despite your ageism comment about the fact that he's 80 years old, Richard Gere says he's not itching for big blockbusters anyway. First of all, he has enough money. Apparently, he's estimated to be worth 45 million. And in his words, quote, "I'm not interested in playing the wizened Jedi in your temple." So apparently, he's happy with the money that has in the bank, and he's more than comfortable with sitting on the sidelines doing Netflix projects.
Good for him because that's what he's going to get.
I want you to know that this show is pro China.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Bill, do you have a problem with China?
I love the food.
Okay. That sounds so disrespectful. Do you
Well,
actually know what is it? Chinese fire drill. Do you know what that is?
sounds like a sex position.
You know what? That's just so. I mean, honestly,
Maybe me and my
can you
husband can practice that later tonight. Give me some tips, honey. We're doing the Chinese. What is it called?
Chinese fire drill?
We're doing the Chinese fire drill tonight. Might get a little glint in the eye, then I know.
I want you to know this is why there's the explicit rating, and that's
Well,
okay.
why do you
All
ask?
right.
Why do you ask anyway? Do you know what
Well,
it
no,
is?
I think they were talking about it on this other like sports radio show I was listening to, and they were talking about whether or not that's offensive or not. Chinese fire drill. So I believe I
But we
know what
still
it
don't know what it
is.
is.
Well, I believe it's kind of like where you stop at like a red light, and then everybody gets out of the vehicle and they change positions in the car.
Why do
But
they
I
do that?
don't know the origin of it. To
And
answer
we
your
don't know
question,
why they do that.
no, I don't. I
Okay.
don't know how that came up to be or whatever else like that. But I'll look it up after the show because apparently, for some reason, I'm trying to pull up my Google, and my Google's not popping up. Do you understand why?
No, because I'm on Google right now.
Ugh, it's so ridiculous. I'm not going to hit any buttons because we're not going to be splicing whatsoever. So let's move on to. We haven't done this in a while.
Well,
Oh
at least
shit! What now?
it's sweet and to the point. It was loud and scary, but it's short. Hopefully.
I'm gonna skip this out of order because I can and because I want to. So our boy James Cameron is back in the news.
Yeah, they say that this was part of a big news drop that came out yesterday of all times on a weekend from Fox with adjustments and information on their upcoming release schedule. And apparently, the Avatar films, starting with Avatar 2, are going to drop every December from December 20th. I'm sorry, December 2020, December 2021. Then they're going to skip 2 years, 23 and 24, and come back, I think, in 25 and 26 for the final two films.
Bill, I'll be shitting in a fucking diaper by then, okay?
I don't know if I believe this. I mean, first of all, I believe that they mean it now, sure. But how many times have we heard that, these movies were supposed to be out this year? Now they were supposed to be out in 2016. Now they're 2020. I don't know if these are ever going to come out.
This is a lot of hype and a lot of build up. For one, I don't really care about the Avatar project
Right.
whatsoever. I
Right.
understand that James Cameron loved his work, but this right here, this might as well be, what's one of Steven Spielberg's lowest movies for you? It's with his ex-wife. Which one was that called?
What now? You cut out.
What do you mean I cut out?
I couldn't hear what you said. Which one of Steven Spielberg's what?
Yeah, in Steven Spielberg's oeuvre, there's a few movies where you don't like.
Yeah.
Um,
Always is
which
one of them.
Yes, always. James Cameron's Avatar is like always for me. I could care less. I think it's overrated. I understand it's the highest grossing movie of all time, blah blah blah. But I'm telling you that we've got about three years on this nonsense here. But
Hold on a second. Sorry. You know, I'll talk about this another time, but the internet is actually just really difficult to even look at anymore because of all the fucking pop-ups. Sorry. Okay.
can I finish my thought?
Yes.
I just don't see this being very successful at all, to be quite honest with you. And I don't know how you're going to measure success because if Avatar 1 made billions of dollars, the formula I go, then Avatar 2 should make more money than the first one because it should generate more interest, more fans, more people. I don't think it's going to hit that number. So in some ways, this is just going to go downhill. I think it's James Cameron's name and the $1 billion are shining, but I think the people are over it. But that's my 2 cents.
Uh, it's risky, especially in today's environment, to release a movie sequel. By the time 2020 comes around, it'll be 11 years, 12 years since the original Avatar came out, which was in 2009, I think. So that's risky, but if they do ever indeed come out, I think they will be marvels to behold. And I think that, don't ever count out James Cameron. Um, I sort of did that with the first Avatar where I thought this is not going to sell, and it sold gangbusters. And if there's anybody worth waiting for a movie for 12 years for me, it's James Cameron. So I'm not super
Yeah,
hyped about
sure.
these movies either. And between now and then, we've got so many freaking movies coming out that I'm interested in. You
Hey,
know,
listen, to hold you over, why don't you just go see the Smurfs movie? How about you just like go watch that?
well, I will tell you this: I have not really pulled off Avatar from my Blu-ray shelf since I bought the Blu-ray when the movie came out, which is 8 years ago now, 7 years ago. Um, and I don't really intend to do it until I get closer to seeing the sequel. So that's just where it's at with me. I'm not in any particular hurry or state of excitement for it, but I will definitely see it once it's out, if it ever indeed comes out. Because tomorrow they'll say Avatar 2 will now be released in 2027, and I'll be retired. So I'll have plenty of time by then to see it.
It's going to be an interesting time in December. Now, does December 18, 2020, is there any Star Wars movie that we're aware that's coming out around that time?
No, they've only released up to episode 9, which is in 2019. So,
So it looks like Avatar is sitting there placing its stake in the ground.
right. Now, here's the other concern I have about this scheduling thing is that it's not really a concern, but it's my preference, it's my wish. that they did just have the Star Wars celebration last week, and they did not mention any news about the date change that was rumored between the Han Solo movie, which is supposed to be out I think May 25th, 2018. But the last couple of Star Wars movies have come out at Christmas. I want it to come out at Christmas, even if it means having to wait an extra 6 months to see the Han Solo movie. I really feel like it's like the best Christmas present ever. And these last two Christmases with Rogue One and The Force Awakens, this Christmas we get The Last Jedi. I just feel like that's sort of like the new Star Wars frame for me. Like I just really find that special. But if they're going to release it in May, so be it. But now that they've moved Avatar to 2020, there's really nothing preventing them because that's the December date of 2018 was where they were going to put Han Solo, and that was going to conflict with Avatar, the previously announced release date of Avatar 2. But now that it's moved all the way to 2020, they've got plenty of time to move, Han Solo back. But I don't know if they will. I wish they would, though.
Okay. So what else was released? I know you updated our comic book movie calendar, which plans our life out for the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, there was a shit ton of X-Men movie drop release dates yesterday, which brings the 2018 release schedule up to 12 major films. Now, not all of these are films that you and I will necessarily see together. I figure about 8 of these are ones that we will see because they're must see. That's what we do. There's a couple of them in there. I don't know if you necessarily are even that interested in Jurassic World 2 on June 22nd,
Nope.
Incredibles 2 on June 15th,
No.
and the as yet untitled Miles Morales Spider-Man the animated film.
No.
Okay, like I said, so of those 12, there's a few that you're not really even interested in. But with the release dates yesterday, they announced 3 X-Men films coming out next year alone. Well, sort of X-Men universe films anyway. If you count Deadpool 2, which is now going to be released on June 1st. Then they also released the release date for the New Mutants on April 13th. And they've titled and released the next X-Men movie starring the kids from the Apocalypse movie. And it's going to be The Dark Phoenix. And that comes out November 2nd. So that's 1, 2,
Interesting.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, 8 films if you don't count the Spider-Man animated movie.
It's a
So
busy
next
year
year,
for us.
jam-packed, right? Next year's got a lot of shit in it. So I'm excited. It looks like it's going to be a really big movie year. It's probably the biggest one so far that they've announced of the next few years anyway. So,
Yeah.
um,
We got to check out what the cash flow is going to be. They might break some records.
yeah, I mean, you've got Infinity War next year. It starts with Black Panther all the way in February. New Mutants, although I don't know that much about the New Mutants. Do you have any background on that since, that's kind of like your ex go-to
I
comic?
don't really have that much. I didn't collect the New Mutants, but it's what the title says. It's New Mutants.
Um,
And I remember maybe there was a character or two like Cannonball, maybe Wolfsbane. Um, there was sort of like android robot character. I can't remember the name. My Google's not acting up where I can really look it up at this point here. But it's
well,
like
here's
with anything
one.
else. It's like new, younger mutants and trying to survive and get the use of their powers. Do you
So
need to know more?
are they trained after the new kids from Apocalypse, or are they younger than those kids?
Oh, they're about the same age. Some of these things, like it's just like separate books in the X-Men world, Bill. They're all like part of the world, but they just follow different teams.
Okay, so here's the
They
character
don't
list.
they don't the new mutants don't show up, and it's kind of like, okay, well, this old team is now old and insignificant, and we're just the young kids on the block. It's just that you have like X Force, you have the New Mutants, you have X Factor, you have all these X-Men teams because they're trying to generate cash and like have an outlet for other creative teams. So you're just putting new people together to form new teams, but they all exist in the same world at the same time.
Okay, so the character list that I see here is Danny Moonstar, Cannonball, Magic, Wolfsbane, Sunspot, and Warlock, among other supporting characters. Now, this is who's supposed to be in
Warlock.
the
There
movie.
you go.
But Sunspot, if I'm not mistaken, was in Days of Future Past.
You're correct.
Okay, so that's one familiar character, at least to X-Men movie audiences. Obviously, I think they also said that James McAvoy has signed on to do Professor X. So that sounds cool. I mean, the thing
I
about it
don't
is,
really. Assuming is that they even do those characters. I'm not. The thing
what
about
was
it is you don't even know if they're doing those characters, and it's the same thing with Days of Future Past, where they created mutants because, like the girl with the fly wings. I mean, sometimes you're just creating them because you don't have the budget, and you don't want to do what the character entails. So who knows where they're going? I mean,
right? I think it's
it's almost
somewhat
like them saying this is the new mutants. They could be doing X Factor. They could just say whatever they're doing, and unless you're telling me they're actually going to be pulling all the members from the team from the original comic book New Mutants, I don't know if it really matters. They're just going to put a whole bunch of characters together with different powers, and hopefully that they have enough chemistry that it clicks for them.
I think it's a little bit confusing for them to release the New Mutants 6 months before releasing the next chapter of the already younger mutant set that we just got to know in Apocalypse. So I'm not sure what the logic of that is, because I would think that you would want to release maybe the Dark Phoenix first in April, maybe, and then the New Mutants later once we've gotten to know the new kids a little bit better. I don't know. It feels a little like they're walking over the same territory of their own property a little bit by releasing a new mutant class before we've really gotten to know the new mutant class we just got introduced to. You know what I'm
I
saying?
have the same feeling that you have. I think it seems kind of ass backwards that you kind of almost have to lay the foundation of the world that you're in
Right.
unless you're trying to do something else. I mean, we don't have any inclination that the New Mutants is some sort of like alternate world, do you? Some alternate
No,
timeline?
there's really no information out about it yet or not. I would
Well,
suspect.
it would make more sense to release the Dark Phoenix story and then actually have some of those New Mutants appear in there and then kind of spin it off.
Right. I mean,
That
I
would make
guess
more
Fox knows
sense
what
to
they're
me.
doing. I certainly hope they do. At least, I just, I'm a little perplexed at this release schedule that they've got going. But I'm excited to see them. I'm excited to see any next new X-Men movie because I'm a fan of
Well,
that universe.
well, this
So
would be an interesting time because what you have here is you have a situation where if they're actually the New Mutants, maybe characters that aren't as popular, sort of like a Deadpool, if you will, then this will be a what is it, first chance to make a good impression?
right,
Like, how will this work with the audience out there? Will this be the whole thing that people will go accept it because it's a superhero franchise and this is where we're at right now? This is the hot thing? Or will people look at this and go, I don't know who these characters are. I don't know this Wolfsbane. I don't know this Cannonball. Who the fuck is Moonstar? Warlock? They don't know.
it feels a little bit like they're trying to reboot their X-Men universe a little bit with the New Mutants when they're not really completely done. I mean, in fact, they're starting yet another chapter in their just sort of rebooted X-Men universe that they just rebooted in Days of Future Past. And now, they carried on into the 80s era with everything having been changed since they all, since Wolverine went back in time and blah blah blah. So, I don't know. I would prefer to see Dark Phoenix first, although, to be honest with you, I would prefer them not to do Dark Phoenix as a storyline in any case. I think that's been done, and whether people like it or not, or are fans of X Men: The Last Stand or not, I think it's sort of repetitive for them to do the same story, even if they do it differently. I just think there's other avenues that they could go down. I don't know why we need to see this story again.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, it's keeping it in the X Men world. You see that Josh Brolin was cast as Cable in Deadpool 2?
I do. I don't have a problem with that. I think, I'm not super invested in the Deadpool universe, as you know, but I think he certainly looks, from the illustrations I've seen, he looks like he could fit the part. So if they're not going to
Josh
get
Brolin
Stephen
is one of
Lang,
my favorite actors. He just has that look, and even though I probably wanted Stephen Lang from Avatar fame and Don't Breathe, I have to admit that James Brolin is somebody I sit there and go, I'm sorry, Josh, is just a guy that I like, just as an actor in general.
I do think it's a little bit, um, these are two very prominent roles that he's going to play, but I mean, you've got him doing Thanos, but he'll be buried under, like, 8 pounds of purple makeup for that. Um, but to give him two such high profile roles so close together, because Infinity War is out in May, Deadpool 2 is out in June. That's just a month, really, apart. I think it's an odd choice, but there was
Sure,
no
it
one
looks
else.
like he signed a 4-picture film deal.
Sure, for Deadpool, you mean, or for
Yeah.
Avengers? Okay. Yeah, I mean, and then Kevin Feige came out and said, people were like, well, how can he do two different things? Well, we've seen Ryan Reynolds do it already, although they were much farther apart. But apparently, Kevin Feige said that they don't have contracts, even though they lock these people in for like the rest of their lives. Apparently, there's no non-compete clause where they're not allowed to do any other type of superhero role while they're doing this part. Just interesting.
Yeah. Well, either way, do you think Joe and Jane Sispack even know that somehow that who Cable is or matter that Josh Brolin is being cast to play that role? Do you think they care? Do they know? Does it really matter? Are they just sitting there going, Deadpool was very irreverent and kind of popcorny fun, and so we'll just go see Deadpool 2? Does it really matter?
I think the wide audience, the general audience that will see it, maybe 25% of them will be hardcore enough to know who Deadpool's sidekick or partner or whatever is. Most people won't know or care, but I do think it helps to build the world that they're building. If they do include a character from the comics, I don't think it hurts anything. It gives you a fan base that you're pleasing, although small probably, of the section of people who saw the movie, but then it helps build buzz for people who haven't known the character. So I think it's cool.
Okay. Bill, we're going to move on to. Hold on. Do you miss the 3-minute blitzkrieg?
I don't. Do you?
I kind of do. I kind of enjoyed that for a little bit. Maybe we can bring it back.
Sure, maybe like every other show.
Oh, that's fine. Anyway, we're going to move on to TV news. We've got 2 trailers to discuss, Thor Ragnarok trailer and The Last Jedi. We're going to save that after our TV news discussion.
Okay.
A couple of these things will go fairly quickly, but I kind of just want to get your thoughts on it. American Horror Story is being renewed for 2 more seasons, seasons 8th and 9th. How has it lasted so long?
Apparently, it must speak to people on some level, I suppose.
So we gave up after season 1?
Yes, I watched one episode, and that was enough for me.
Okay, I watched the whole season.
It's not for me. I mean, I'm not going to say the show's a piece of shit, but I'm going to say it's not for me.
Is Ryan Murphy still behind each season?
He is.
Is he doing anything outside of American Horror Story?
Yes, they just finished a show on FX called Feud. They're also doing the next American Crime Story coming up shortly. I think it's going to be about, oh, I forget now. Maybe oh, what's that girl that disappeared on the
John
beach?
Bidet?
No, the older girl, like 10
Natalie?
years ago. Yeah, maybe that's it. Anyway, so he's
Down
got
in
like three.
Aruba. What's her
Right,
name
he's
down in
got like
Aruba?
three current TV series. Feud, which is going in for a second season, which is going to be about Princess Charles and Princess Diana. Prince Charles and Princess Diana. American Crime Story, and American Horror Story. So he's a busy guy.
Are you going to be watching any of those?
I might watch Feud eventually. We've taped all the episodes, but I haven't really been in a rush to watch them. Um, So that's the only one of his 3 current series that seems appealing to me in the least. So,
Okay. Let me ask you, do you have any news on the writer's strike?
I do know that it's causing a lot of headaches for people, and people are kind of nervous about it actually happening because the last time it happened, shit went off the rails. So that's all I know.
Well, according to my notes, it says the last strike was in 2008.
Right. Remember that
And
was the
it
Heroes
drastically
season?
affected shows like Rescue Me, Breaking Bad, Lost. I don't know if I really recall when these writer strikes happen, how it affects my life. I don't remember.
If I'm not mistaken, I remember it because of Heroes, and I remember that they ended up doing only like half a season of Heroes because for season 2, and it was delayed like 6 months because of that strike. So it had just come like in between the first season and the second season of Heroes, and everything, got delayed because of it. And there were people who were scab writing and people were complaining about it. It's not good. Let's put it that way. It's never good for there to be a writer's strike.
Okay. So does this affect the movie world?
Kevin Feige gave an interview this week in which he said their 2018 movies are locked and ready and loaded and ready to go. So obviously they're still filming Avengers: Infinity War now. Ant-Man and the Wasp's script they start filming, I believe, shortly, which is the script is locked. Um, and he said after 2018 though, they would probably obviously Black Panther's been completed. They just finished filming that this week. But after that, they would probably have to change up some of their plans if the strike lasts long enough. So,
When do you think we'll be getting our first Black Panther trailer?
I would suspect probably with Thor Ragnarok, maybe.
No,
Maybe.
really.
I mean, that would make the most sense. It's still November, December, January. It's 4 months before. We probably will get one before then, maybe at Comic Con, because this week Feige also announced. Feige was just all over the news this week. He also announced that they are going to be doing. Last year, in the last 2 years, Marvel Studios did not attend San Diego Comic Con. This year, he says they will. And this year, there's also an additional comic convention, um, the D23 convention, the Disney Fan Club convention, which is 1 week before San Diego Comic Con. So I bet you between those two, we'll see something from Black Panther.
Well, now that's going to be must see, sit down at my computer entertainment. Everything stops.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
because you know why? Marvel's got a streak of hits and making money. It's a lot of pressure out there. A lot of pressure on each movie out there. Which one's gonna fuck it up? Which one's gonna be the Incredible Hulk? Which
Wow.
one?
Maybe it'll be
I don't
Thor
know.
Ragnarok.
Well, we'll get there soon enough. Anyway, so we also have the Cloak and Dagger trailer that's coming out on Spike Television that came
Nope.
out recently.
Freeform.
Did you see it?
I did see it. Um,
Cloak and Dagger, based on a comic book. What? Two teenagers. One of them, the girl has like dagger powers. The guy has powers that engulf in darkness. Um, I guess maybe their
so let me get
race
this
plays
right.
a big
The black
proportion.
the black guy of the interracial part of this relationship between Cloak and Dagger, his magic power is making everything dark.
Engulfing you in the darkness.
Okay. So when he smiles, all you can see is his teeth.
You know what? That's so racist.
This is what I'm
That's
saying. It seems a little bit odd for that to be his power to me. But okay, fine. He engulfs everything in darkness, and he's black. Okay. And the girl can
her
make daggers
power.
out of.
She makes light daggers, and they each feed off of each other, like sort of vampiric relationship.
Is this going to be like Twilight? Because I can't. I just can't. I can't. So I certainly hope, although the trailer certainly looks very Twilight-ish and angsty, I'm not super excited based on the trailer, but I will try it. Obviously, it's a Marvel show, but when I watched the trailer, did I go, "Oh yes, I can't wait for that show"? Not really.
I'm gonna probably give it a couple episodes, but as I realize after watching the Cloak and Dagger official trailer, I realize that I'm older, and sometimes this teen romance, and you're right, the angst. It's like I got bills to pay, Bill. I got bills to pay, lawns to mow. I mean, I got to walk dogs, and these kids are talking about homework and who's going to the dance. It's just not something I'm into.
Yeah. Although
I mean,
for
I'm just saying
you,
I can't say that I can't get into it, but generally after watching the trailer, it's not like it doesn't say it's my demographic. Like this seems to be skewing towards an MTV crowd.
wow, I don't even think MTV skews towards an MTV crowd anymore. So I think we're gonna have to find a more hip now comparison for what
Is there a more what would I say outside of MTV?
I think maybe more like the Twitter generation or the Snapchat kids.
okay, the
I don't know.
Snapchat kids? All right.
Makes us sound like at
Get off
least
my
we're
lawn.
right. So yeah, I there was another trailer this week for another comic book show that I was much more excited about upon viewing it, and that was the trailer for Krypton for Sci-Fi Network.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm surprised at the level of what do I want to say, graphic similarities that they've incorporated in this show to Man of Steel. I mean, I know it's written by David Goyer, who obviously did the Man of Steel script, but I'm surprised that visually it's so in continuity. It looks like with the Man of Steel universe. Now, I don't know if they're going to make it really canon with Man of Steel and the DCEU, or if it's going to be something else. But stylistically, visually, it looks very similar to the way they produced Krypton in the Man of Steel early sequence. So I
I
think that's
mean,
cool.
visually, the Krypton show. I actually thought the special effects that they showed and the location and the background visually, I thought it looked pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, for a
Um,
TV show, it looked like the budget was not what I would have thought they would be able to pull off. So I'm in, and I'm excited to see it. It's strange because it's set 2 generations before the birth of Kal-El. So how fascinating could it be? But then I thought the same thing over Gotham, and now Gotham is one of my favorite TV shows, and there's no Batman in it. I mean, there's an allegory for Batman in that they use Jim Gordon as sort of like the proto Batman, and maybe they'll do something like that with Kal-El's grandfather. I don't know, but if it's as entertaining as Gotham is, then I'm in.
okay, all right, fair enough.
Not so much
Did
with
you?
Cloak and Dagger. I'll give Cloak and Dagger a try, but if they start with the Twilight bullshit, I gotta go.
I know you're already on the fence with it. I expect you to last half an episode and then you're out.
Just saying.
You're speaking in coded language. You're letting the world know right now that it's on thin ice already.
Maybe the second trailer will be better, and that'll get
You,
me excited for it.
you didn't happen to watch? You didn't happen to catch the Mist trailer, did you?
No, because I won't be catching the missed show either. So, because
You
the
know,
2 hours I've devoted to Mist in my lifetime is the most they're going to get out of me.
I'm all up in the Stephen King shit right now. I'm all excited about The Dark Tower. I've already put in for the audiobook, reserved a copy for the audiobook of it. And I love the Mist movie. I'm not a fan of the ending of the Mist movie, but generally speaking, love the concept of it. And
Wasn't Thomas
uh,
Jane in that movie?
yes, it was.
All I can remember about that movie, and this is literally all I can remember, is Thomas Jane holding some screaming kids inside a car garage door while something was trying to like get at them under the door of the car. That's the garage door. That's all I can remember. I also
Yeah, it
remember the fact that I thought it was terrible. But other than that, that's specifically all I can remember.
was.
Was there
I
something
like
to the movie that I missed? That not a fair description of what you got from it?
the whole purpose of the movie is that you have this outside force, this mist, which creates some sort of angst and fear, and the people are in the grocery store. and it just shows you when the chips are down, which is the whole, what I believe the concept of Walking Dead is, that the, the real monsters are not necessarily outside of the door, but actually in the room with you, the rest of the humans, and how fear drives you to do all sorts of crazy things. And people turn on one another. So it's almost like a psychological experiment as to what happens when a little pressure is applied to people.
Right, and I feel
And
like M. Night Shyamalan gave me that in a way that I found much more palatable, in the same kind of message, being that the real monsters are inside the gate, not outside the gate. But also, M. Night gave me something that some of these Stephen King movies are sorely lacking for my personal preference, and that is some kind of hope or ray of light amongst the angst and the drama. Where, there was that love story between Joaquin Phoenix and Bryce Dallas Howard in The Village, sort of gives you some kind of like, amongst the fear and the anger and the people turning on each other, there's still some kind of hope. Where The Mist, I didn't feel like there was, it was just kind of bleak. There was no like buddy to root for in that movie.
yeah, you were supposed to root for Thomas Jane and him getting his kid out alive. That's what you were supposed to root
Yeah, I
for.
didn't care so much.
Okay. I had an incident when I was up there in Boston, and we're talking about when the chips are down. Let me ask you, because I know you can be a little bit rude and aloof in
Really?
how you operate with society.
Uh-huh.
So my girl and I were leaving the hotel. Very nice hotel, very good time. And, we have to catch an early flight. So you go down into the hotel lobby, and there is three people waiting. One older couple and one young with like a suitcase on rollers, and a young guy with like a backpack. You go over to the concierge, if you will, and you sit there and go, "We're here to catch the shuttle to the airport." And she goes, "Well, the shuttle is on its way back, and these people are obviously waiting for the shuttle too." So there's no sort of like, it's not like a line. It's just a hotel lobby, and you can see that you can look out to the front to see where the shuttle is going to pull up. But it's early in the morning, it's cold, and so people are just kind of just standing around. Okay, you got sort
Okay.
of the scenario.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, there's the two older people, the one young kid, now me and my girl. Now all of a sudden, we're there for 5 or 6 minutes. Then other people start to come down. Okay. So
Okay.
you've got about four more people that come down, one individual guy, and then you got three more people who are together, two older people and a younger person with them. Now, the older guy who just came down after we've been down there for at least 10 minutes, he goes outside by himself and he sets up shop. This is the part where we talk about the chips are down. I feel a certain way about this because I feel as though we're all waiting for the shuttle and we were here before you, but you're going to try to get in there before we do. Does that bother you? Does that not
I think
scream, like, even though there's no specific line, no official wait in line, that there is a unofficial line where you have to kind of like, you know,
I think this we should probably have this discussion off the air.
oh, okay. I want you to know. I want you to know I was ready to buck people. You talk about society breaking down. I was sitting there going, you need to get to the back of the fucking bus on this shit here. You know who was here first. You wait. And I hate when I get like that. I hate when I get like that.
Okay. Fair enough.
So what? You're one of those people. I know what you are. You're one of those people that just doesn't even see the line. You're rolling down and go, oh, here's the shuttle, just on time. Oh, and you're getting on there, setting up shop, getting your seat while those old people were waiting for 15 minutes or struggling to get their shit on there. You're already in the back with your headphones plugged in, going, what's the holdup? What's taking so long? Why are
I
we not leaving?
mean, I mean, I'm just saying. I'm not
I,
gonna
I,
lie and say I wouldn't be that guy. So
yeah, I know where you're at. Anyway, I'm just
okay,
looking forward to the Mist trailer. Okay, I mean the
okay,
Mist TV show when it comes out.
right?
I will be there watching it.
Because you like the movie.
I do like the movie. I like the concept. They're going to expand it from the grocery store to make it all around town. They're going to have different situations happen in each different location in terms of how the people are going to respond to the Mist. I
So is
didn't
Thomas
really
Jane
give
going to be in
Stephen
it?
King's Under the Dome much of a chance because I just thought it was real corny when I did watch it. It screamed ABC television for me.
Wow.
Um, you know, but
So
let's move on.
are they gonna have Thomas Jane in it?
No, I don't think Thomas
Or
Jane
was
is in
he?
it.
Did they price him out? It's kind of scary about the budget of the show when they can't even afford Thomas Jane, who really isn't exactly lighting his career is not on fire at this particular
I think
juncture.
he was
So
just in a movie called Brimstone, which I enjoyed very much.
okay.
Yeah. All right, it's time for trailers, Bill. Let's move this along here because I'm looking forward to your discussion. We saw the Thor
Okay.
Ragnarok trailer. Sum it up for me. 2, 3 sentences at most. Go.
Fun, fun, fun. That's my sentence. It looks like a kaleidoscope, colorful romp, which is just what I want from my Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. So, in the vein of Guardians of the Galaxy, which I'm really looking forward to in the next couple of weeks, I think they're going to pull a entertainment extravaganza with Thor Ragnarok. So,
you know, Guardians of the Galaxy is just a fun movie. It's got some cool characters, and they're sort of like Deadpool without all the masturbating to the unicorn shit in there.
wow.
But what I was hoping for with my Thor Ragnarok with this Takiti Wahidi, um, what I was hoping for was something a little bit more edgy. But what can I expect from the Mouse House? This is what I was going to get. It's going to be a kooky romp, and what I really love the most, sarcasm inserted here, is Jeff Goldblum with that fucking what is it, neon face paint he's wearing up there. I just find that to be just absolutely just once again, this is Benicio del Toro in the collector role of just kooky fucking nonsense. And it's not even cool kookiness. It's not even
No, it
cool Flash
actually
Gordon.
it depends
It's
on
not
what you
Flash
consider to
Gordon
be
cool.
cool.
It's just
Yeah, it is
weird.
Flash Gordon cool because that's
It's
exactly what when I saw that trailer, that's the first thing that came to my mind was this looks like Flash Gordon. And Flash Gordon is kooky cool. Very kooky, very cool.
I was like, when did RuPaul's Drag Race get a movie budget? That's what I said to
Wow.
myself.
Really?
What's going on up here? That's what I
Well,
said when I saw
it
Goldblum up
it reminds me of Flash Gordon. It reminds me of maybe Masters of the Universe a little bit, maybe a little bit of Conan the Destroyer thrown in. It just looks like a
Listen to the
wild
movies that you
ride.
listed: Masters of the Universe and Conan the Destroyer. Those are the movies that
Fun,
actually destroyed the franchises.
fun.
They destroyed they're franchise destroyers. Those movies.
Well, first of all, I don't think they're going to be doing many more Thor movies anyway. So much for the franchise being destroyed. It's the final
Oh,
film
so
of the
you're just like
franchise.
fuck it. They can do whatever they want to at the end, huh? That's how
Yeah,
it
if they want to
is.
make, if they've done the sort of, sort of fun Thor one, but not really all that well written. Then they've done the sort of much more serious take with Thor, the Dark World, and now they're just going to go balls to the wall with like the sort of fun summer movie, even though it comes out in November thing. So, this is all leading us into Infinity War, which is, I'm sure, going to be a massive, violent clusterfuck of, darkness. So I'm ready for Thor to lighten up a little bit.
You know, lighten up. The whole shit's lighten up. You know what I'm waiting for? I'm waiting for Marvel's answer to Logan. That's what I'm waiting for.
Well, Kevin Feige said you can hold your breath because they're not doing rated R movies for Marvel Studios. They're just not doing it. So
How many more years do we have to put out with Kevin Feige? Can we vote him out like Trump, or do we have to just deal with him for a while?
well, I wouldn't suspect with the money keep rolling in the way it's been rolling at the pace it's been going that they're going to be really looking to replace him too soon. Now,
So
once
what you're
Black
telling me
Panther
is,
makes $5, they might start looking at him with a little side eye. But until then, I think he's good to go for the rest of this year anyway.
so right now Kevin Feige is like a monarchy. He's like Bashir al-Assad. He's just down there just doing whatever the fuck he wants to do when he wants to do it. Is that how it's
Well,
rolling?
if you're if you're rolling in the dough and every movie you make just keeps making more and more money, no matter how obscure the characters you're using is, then yeah, I think he's probably got a lot of power.
Unlimited power.
Ah. So anyway, that's my thing on Thor Ragnarok. I think it looks like an '80s action movie extravaganza, which is exactly the way the director Taika Waititi described it as. So I'm all in for that one.
I look forward to sitting next to you in a theater where you have your popcorn and you're clapping like a little 5-year-old child, and I sit there with a scowl on my face with every joke that drops. That's going to be a good time. I look forward to November.
All right.
Very nice.
Well,
Speaking
we've
of
got a big November, so
speaking of unlimited power, the Jedi trailer dropped.
the Jedi or the Last Jedi.
It's the Jedi trailer. You know what I mean. Do I have to give the full title? I'm sorry. I'll be respectful. The Last
you.
Jedi trailer dropped.
Thank you. That's correct.
Guess how many times I watched it?
Once.
Twice.
Oh, I'm shocked. Okay, so
Here,
I'm gonna try to keep.
No, I'm going to go first
Okay.
because I'm not going to be long.
Okay.
I saw the Last Jedi trailer. I saw the Last Jedi trailer twice. I do not find it to be as engaging or as I don't know, interesting as the Force Awakens trailer. If I must draw a comparison, I thought the Force Awakens trailer was sort of like a mic drop in several of the scenes. I felt as though this trailer was almost just a sort of like the middle part of a story, but they didn't really have any, what I perceive for myself, mic drops. I think you view it differently, being steeped in Star Wars lore, but otherwise, I was just kind of. But I can say it looks like, once again, like a Star Wars trailer in and of itself. A lot of different scenes. It's going a lot of different places. It's going to have a lot of great camera angles. But outside of that, I just don't know if Luke at the end saying his last line really has the impact of like, Luke, I'm your father line. I think that's what they're going for, but I don't think it resonates with me. And I'm going to consider myself to be a Joe and Jane six pack. Because I don't think Joe and Jane Sixpack really know all the ins and outs of all the Force outside of just watching the movies. That's it.
Okay. Well, for me, that line is a mic drop for Star Wars, and I think for a lot of the
Let me
audience, and
ask
maybe
you, I don't want to interrupt you, but do you think that line means anything to the general audiences who are
I
not
do.
watching? What's that?
I do. Everyone knows what a Jedi is. Everyone knows that Luke's the preeminent Jedi. Everyone knows that Luke is the hero of the story. Everyone knows that Luke is all things Jedi. And to
Yes.
hear
So
to hear
when he says at
what
the end,
you are interrupting me.
I'm sorry.
To hear your main protagonist speak words that seem to be anti everything the antagonist has been up to this point is jarring and is shocking and makes you wonder, is Luke evil? Is Luke now going to be on the dark side? What does that mean? It's provocative. Okay, maybe not a mic drop in the sense of Han or Chewie saying, we're home, walking onto the Millennium Falcon. But for the greater mythology of Star Wars, I think it has tremendous implications about what everything we've seen up to this point actually means. Now, that being said, I am concerned that this is going to backfire on them a little bit because, how do I put this? What they're doing is actually, in my opinion, the smartest route they could go. And I think it opens up a whole slew of avenues in which they can take the Star Wars franchise, not just this movie, not even just this trilogy, but the remainder of whatever it is they've got in their grand scheme of things to show us. Because they've been seeding the idea that the Jedi aren't everything that they've been cracked up to be all the way back to the prequels. George threw those little hints into even starting back with Anakin, in which Obi-Wan did not want to train Anakin, Yoda did not want to train him, Mace Windu did not want to train him, even though they had been told about the prophecy of Anakin being the chosen one that was supposed to bring balance, quote, to the Force, unquote. They still didn't want to let him in. That repercussion affected them in episode 2 and in episode 3, in which he becomes Darth Vader. Because the Jedi were so concerned that Anakin might possibly be more powerful than the rest of them, they didn't want even to train him to be one of their own. And that animosity and that resentment built up in him, and he ended up being an easy target for Palpatine in the end. But it started with the Jedi not really even letting him in. And then they sort of play around with these ideas in Revenge of the Sith that the prophecy itself about Anakin being the chosen one might not be the prophecy they thought it was. So they just sort of dribbled that in. They didn't really go that far into it. Then you get to the Clone Wars series. The original cartoon that's now off the air. It had 6 seasons on the Disney XD channel. I'm sorry, it was the Cartoon Network. And towards the very end of that series, because that show was canceled, there are 4 episodes that I tried to get you to watch. These are the ones concerning Yoda and the Force, with the Force priestesses in them, in which Yoda sort of goes on this vision quest, and they start to introduce the idea to you that the Force is greater than the Jedi or the Sith, that the Force is, you know, much bigger, that there are much more levels or ways of accessing the Force than the Jedi have been able to do, or the Sith wanted to access. And so it sort of gets into that idea that, well, maybe the Force isn't all black and white, which is sort of the way the original trilogies led us to believe it was. You know, if you follow the Force, then the Force will bring you to the light, etc. I think a lot of the problems that people have with the prequels are tied up in the fact that they sort of changed up that ideology and made you sort of think there are all these levels of sort of gray in there. You know, Anakin was sort of a good guy, but sort of was able to be turned very easily. I know I'm rambling and I'm really trying to get to a point here, but what I'm trying to say is that for them to sort of now, the prequels weren't super popular with a lot of sections of the fans, and I think people access the originals easier because they feel like there's a clear black and white. For them now to go back to the prequel idea of the fact that there is not an easy answer, there aren't any blacks and whites, and to start all of these what they call the gray Jedi, the Jedi that are more concerned with the Force than their um, uh, dogmatic view of the Force or their dogmatic practices of using the Force. Um, I think it's dangerous. I think that they have a potential of turning off some people in the same way the prequels did by introducing the same sort of ideals. I think it's essential for Star Wars to continue to grow that they do something like this, that they allow you to understand that there is much more to this story or to the Force than, you know, it uncovers levels that we have yet to see, and it leaves them space to sort of grow the idea that it's not everything we thought it was. But that's also the potential to turn people off who wanted to be able to easily access the good versus evil dichotomy between the Sith and the Jedi. But you can't always go back to, and you know, and
Listen,
we talked about this with The Force Awakens. You know, you can't always lean on that nostalgia feeling to continue on with the story. One of the weakest elements of The Force Awakens to me was them redoing the freaking Death Star again and again. And for them to just continue going down with what we've sort of understood the Jedi and the Sith to mean does sort of bring you down the sort of like, if they're just going to keep repeating the same cycle, what is the point?
listen. It's. I need you to continue on where you're going. I think you're getting lost with some of your rambling where you want to go with this. But let me point out some points and get you back on track because I really want to know what you're trying to say from a a novice, if you will. But I feel like you're kind of dense in terms of what you think. I know you did the Star Wars show, but you were doing it with people who are like, licking George Lucas's ass and everything
They
else that
weren't,
he's doing
but
with the
okay.
shows. But for a person who watches the show outside of that, not reading anything else and not watching the Rebel or the Clone Wars, there were a lot of problems with the prequels. Okay, and it
Okay.
wasn't so much, but generally speaking, it was not so much about all this blah blah blah. It was the midichlorians was a huge part. I'm speaking for Joe and Jay Sixpack because in my mind, you thought that the Force was something that everybody could access. It just wasn't for some individual who was born to the right family. It just wasn't for Prince Charles and Prince William because they were born in the family. You could access the Force. Maybe if you sat there and practiced or did some sort of training, you too could be a Jedi. And then what you come to find out is you just have to have enough of the genetic code in you or have to sit around and get the right cells in you. So at that point, then you were kicked out of the club. There's no chance you can be part of the club unless you have the right genetic code. That's what turned people off because the whole idea was like you were all pretending to be Jedi, but it's that you can't. That's the huge problem because
Is it a
everybody
huge
wants to be
problem?
Luke. Everybody wants to be Luke, and then you're saying you can't be Luke because you don't have enough of the cells. And so that's a problem. I
No.
understand.
Is it a huge problem
But
if
I'm talking as Joe and Jane six pack. What you're saying is that changed everything because with the other three movies, you were still under the hopes that anyone could be a Jedi. That's a huge change. I don't think that the people have any trouble with accepting that somehow maybe the Jedi want to be a more balanced lifestyle instead of being monk like, and maybe they can allow people to get married or have love. I don't think the people have that problem. The people have a problem with not saying that somehow it's not open to everyone.
what I'm telling you is that the whole idea of the Jedi is wrong. It's the interpretation that the Jedi are using with the midichlorians that becomes the problem. The Jedi
Yes,
believe
it's a huge
that
problem.
the Jedi believe, but if the Jedi are exposed as having the whole time that you don't in fact need to have midichlorians or anything else in order to access the Force, which I think is where they're going with this. They're going with the Jedi believe things that are inaccurate about the Force, and therefore the Jedi are not effective Force users in a larger sense of the word, and therefore you need the Jedi, as Luke says at the end, to end, because the Jedi are a didactic, myopic, cloistered set of monks who believe a certain set of rules and a certain set of practices will gain them ultimate access to the Force. The Jedi believe that they are the ultimate good in the universe and that the Sith must be eradicated for them to prevail over, good to prevail over evil. What if that whole idea is wrong? What if the idea that the
What?
Sith have to be eradicated is wrong? What if the idea that the Jedi are the only people that can use the Force for good is just plain wrong? Now, the idea that
Hold
the
on.
Jedi have to end doesn't mean that good ends. It means the Jedi have to evolve. The Sith have to evolve. They all have to figure out a way to access the Force that is much more powerful and much more inclusive than what we've been yet led to believe that the Force can do. And I think that's where they're going. I think they're
Okay.
going to expose
Listen, we've got to
that.
have a conversation here because I got to ask questions. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Conversation. So let me get this straight here. Okay, so how do you feel about the fact is that if this is where you think they might be going with it, how do you feel about them like sort of writing out George's midichlorians thing?
I don't think they're writing it out. I think, like I said, and I think, again,
Well, yeah, they are because
No, they're
they were
not.
sitting there going they're wrong. That's what you just said. They're
Right. I
wrong on
said
this whole thing. The
they're
Jedi are
right.
wrong in this midichlorian belief.
That doesn't mean that they were somehow incompetent or purposefully wrong. It means they had a limited view of what the the whole grand scheme of things in the galaxy regarding the Force could do. It just means they, like most people, are human. They're still human and they're flawed, and that they have a narrow vision of what the Force was about.
I'm not sitting there penalizing people for being wrong. I mean, this is the story of history throughout life. You do it one way, and then you realize all of a sudden you're in shackles and chains, and go, well, slavery's wrong, and then you move on. I understand that. I'm just saying, in the history of this movie here, the Jedi were talking about midichlorians, and Yoda's count was high, and this or that, and now all of a sudden we're moving past. You're acting like I'm a personal attack, but it's essentially it is saying that this thinking is no longer valid. Are you okay with that? Because George had
Yes.
wrote it differently.
No, because I think that you are thinking that George wrote it differently. I believe differently than that. I believe that George was going this route way back at the beginning of the prequels, and that this was eventually where he was going to end up anyway.
Okay,
Because of
well, so you're
all,
just saying this is just the overall part of the story, that it wasn't something like he had put this in there, and the people that other writers are coming along and go, we have to clean this up because this hurt a lot of people with this midichlorian talk, and this is a way of massaging it at
not at
this point.
all. Not at all, because again, this stuff started with the prequels, which George was obviously all involved with. It continued with the Clone Wars cartoon series, which George was intimately involved with. So these ideas that they're now sort of just coming to full bloom with episode 8, this stuff has been coming up through George centered materials in the Star Wars universe. So
Yeah.
no, I don't think that they're overwriting. I think they're expanding and deepening what we already understand the Force to be. And I think it's brilliant, although I do, again, think it's dangerous for them to add layers. For me, this is exactly what the Matrix trilogy did. The Matrix first movie came out, everybody loved it. They thought that Neo is the hero, and this is just going to be him destroying the Matrix, and we're going to be done. And the rest of the trilogy, the second and the third films, deepen your understanding of what the first film was all about, to a point that some people were turned off by it because they didn't think it went places they didn't think it was ever going to go. Deep philosophical places that made you think about the nature of life and the nature of the what we believe to be reality, and so forth and so forth and so on. This is exactly what I think they're doing
No,
with the Star Wars
see,
trilogy. I, however, hope that they can do it
I
in a
don't know
way.
why I don't know why I have to speak for the common man here, because you're acting like somehow this is some sort of redneck West Virginia, and it's almost like we were there at the same time but you see it differently. I don't look at it like somehow the people didn't understand or didn't care that it was going deeper. The problem is how you present the material to the people here. When
If you
your
would let me finish
purpose
my thought, I would
let
tell
me
you that.
finish. Let me finish. No, you're not finished. You're not going there. I'm letting you know. Okay? It's being purposefully dense. Okay? The people aren't fucking stupid. It's not like they sit there and go, it's gotta be good or evil. It's not that. It's when you start fucking writing shit across the board and you start going like this. Bill, if sometimes the rose falls on the floor, but then the levels do not rise, but somehow the fingers cross over, but the sun doesn't shine. Okay? And the person goes like this. All I ask if you want a fucking waffles. Okay? That's all I asked you. And your response is sometimes the riddles present answers, and the answers are not riddles but questions. So you must know the right answer to ask the perfect riddle. That's what irritates fucking people. It's not that they're not open to sitting there expanding the concepts of philosophy of life, but when you're sitting there trying to go like this, I'm paying you $10 to watch a fucking movie. I'm not watching a documentary. This is not National Geographic, and I'm not taking an intro to philosophy class in college. But you're going to put all this shit in here and you talk down to me and try to make it so fucking dense that I have to sit there and read 15 fucking articles to find out that the blue coat that you were wearing represents Buddha's seventh level of enlightenment, which means that this person was trying to communicate this. That's what pisses people the fuck off. It's not so much that they can't take the shit. It's just rude to say that. It's just rude. I mean, fuck. It's just bullshit. Make the movie fucking accessible and stop trying to be like the fucking Terrence Malick Tree of Life with the shit. Okay?
Are you done?
That's the problem. I mean, I was there watching the same fucking movie. It's not like I can't sit there and take the time to wrap my mind around it, but you're being purposely fucking dense. All you have to do is pull up the Merovingian scene from fucking Matrix Reloaded and then watch him sit there fucking wax wise and talking fucking riddles over and over about cause and effect and cause and orgasms. And you're sitting there going, quit fucking with me. You're fucking with me and you're making it, you're overcomplicating it. That's a problem. That's a problem. And I understand that it worked for you, but the reason why it wasn't accessible and it gets shit on by many people is because of shit like that. That's Joe and Jane six pack.
Are you done?
Yeah. The
So
Gray
where I
Jedi
was,
and expanding the concept of it, what you're saying is something that people will accept. What they will not accept is when you sit there and you keep talking in fucking riddles. That won't. If the people ask you a question, Bill, do you like chocolate? Don't answer me in a fucking riddle. That's going to be a problem if they play the game like that way. That's a problem.
so now are you done?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
passionate. I don't hide
So
my passion.
where I was going to go with it before you
I'm
continued
passionate. Don't
your
take my
passion,
yelling as being some sort of aggressive attack to you, but I feel like I speak for the people.
where I was going to go was I was going to say that I hope that they can find a way to make the philosophies and things that they're going to use to expand the definition of what we understand the force to be about. I hope they can find a way to make it accessible to people because I think some people were turned off because they felt like it was inaccessible. That's what I was going to say, but you didn't allow me to
Oh,
finish that.
oh, so you agree?
I agree only in the sense that in a major budget film, you have to make things accessible to people who aren't deep into the mythology as I am, or many other Star Wars fans are. I think you have to make it accessible. I think that's the problem that people have with the Matrix. Not a problem I have, but people do, that it becomes inaccessible. So I applaud them because I do think it's important for them to move this narrative forward, that we don't just continue to rely on the nostalgia factor that worked for The Force Awakens, and that they push it in new directions and expand the mythology in fresh, interesting ways. I just hope that they are able to do that and still allow people to be accessible into their expansion.
It's an interesting theory that you have as to where they're going with that, and this whole idea of that this sect of monks, Jedi's, that their methods are archaic as well as their thinking, and it needs to change, which is actually appropriate because this is talking about expanding the world and the material, which I'm actually fine with. That's not a problem. I think you can do that if you sit there because that's what happens throughout life. You sit there and go, there's a priest shortage. Now all of a sudden we're thinking about maybe we should allow priests to marry. I mean, you can see it happening in a real life, and so therefore it's not a stretch that they can do it in the movies. But I think they have to just keep things that are I mean, I think for me, like, I wonder where they're going to go in terms of is something the force, is that something everyone can access, or is it still only a select chosen few that are born to parents of force users? Is that what it boils down to?
I think that where they're going is we don't yet know. I think that the idea that they're expanding the definition of what we know the force to be is really where we've only gotten that much out of what we've seen so far.
Yeah.
What that
So
means, the
what's
specifics
this
of that, I don't
defense?
think we know.
What's this defense of the Sith? What are you talking about? The Sith have to evolve, just like the Jedi.
Well, there are ideas in the Sith that aren't necessarily, the Emperor doesn't necessarily think he's evil. The idea that there needs to be someone to sort of um, master the universe into following some kind of order, you know, they take it way too far. Obviously, Snoke isn't Palpatine, and the First Order isn't the Empire,
Did
but
you did you watch the same movies that I watched?
yes. And the
When
idea
when
that
Tarkin was sitting there with Princess Leia going, "If you reveal this to me, then I won't blow up your planet, your home planet." And she gives him the information,
I
and
said
he
the
still
Emperor did not
wait,
think.
and he still blows up the planet. And then they blew up 7 more planets. Am I confused as to the definition of evil? That they think that's just cool, like that's just. And
I'm
what
saying
madness is this? Like Jeffrey Dahmer thinking I can eat humans? I think is it that type of psychosis you're telling me because they're
no,
crazy and don't know they're
no,
crazy?
no. What I'm telling you is there are certain aspects of the dark side of the Force that may not be evil in themselves. They are wielded by evil people, but those
Yes. Okay.
powers are not necessarily evil. For example,
Okay. Fine.
in in the opera scene in Revenge of the Sith, when Palpatine tells Anakin, and Anakin asks him, you know, is there a way that I can stop my wife from dying? Is this a power that I can learn? And Palpatine tells him, not from a Jedi, which lets you know that the reincarnation that we later on experience with Obi-Wan, not reincarnation, but the ability to maintain one's identity after death is perhaps originated in a dark side way of things. Obi-Wan later learns from Qui-Gon that you can figure out a way to use that power without using the evil that goes with it. So maybe there's a way, there are some parts of the Force that were considered dark side powers that don't necessarily have to be wielded in evil ways.
Oh, you know what, Bill? That makes perfect sense. I understand. It's the power is only evil when used by evil people.
Right. But you
It's like
understand that
a
the
gun.
Jedi's
A gun
didactic ways.
doesn't necessarily mean to be actually bad unless you're going to just walk into a crowded theater and start fucking shooting. It's just the
Right.
person who wields it,
Right,
correct?
but all but the Jedi believe that anything that has anything to do with the dark side of the Force is persona non grata. Anything that
Oh,
can lead you to that. And maybe that's not right. I mean, the Jedi believe that you shouldn't love or have connections intimately with people, but that's a human emotion. Connections to people that you don't want to let die are human. And it's unrealistic for them, perhaps, and that's part of why they fell to Anakin, is because they expected him to cut ties with Padme, with his mother, and he wasn't able to do that, and he ended up hating them for it. You don't want to fuck with somebody who has mastery of the Force and hates you.
yeah. Okay. I mean, let's just keep it real here. We've had this talk before here. I get it. You don't. Some of the Jedi ways are not for you. Okay. They like to walk around, and instead of wearing regular shoes, they like to wear sandals with their feet out over at your little party. Okay. You don't want your toes out. That's the way they roll. Okay. They wear robes. They don't wash them. They stink. You don't like it. Okay. You don't like some of their methods. But you know what? That's fine. Let's just call it like it is. The Sith have to go. And it's not so much their fucking methods. I understand you want to evolve and go, maybe the Sith's methods of let's explore their abilities to be able to raise people from the dead. Okay? That's not necessarily per se evil, but let's explore that use of the power. I'm just saying the people that are currently wielding the dark forces seem to be dark individuals. Those individuals have to go. I'm not saying their practices cannot be used to raise crops or something else, but there's no chance that they're evolving. Okay, they've got to go. There's no hanging out with the Sith and their methods. They've got to go.
Well, there aren't any Sith anymore. We don't know
Okay,
what Snoke
okay, but
is.
if you want to keep their powers, it's fine. But you're not telling me that Snoke blowing up 7 planets is still hanging out. That we just have to sit there and sing kumbaya around the fucking forest fire. It's not going to happen. He's got to
Well,
be put before a tribunal and maybe spend some time in the pokey.
I think that perhaps it's too late for Snoke, but maybe it's not too late for Kylo Ren. Before he ends up having to die, perhaps he can be brought into the light. He's already being drawn
Oh,
to the light side, as we see in The Force
I-
Awakens. But
Is he going to be doing
again,
any jail time, or is he just going to be
no, he's
like
not doing it.
all are
Here's
forgiven?
the idea: is that you take something from what's considered to be negative, you take something from what's considered to be positive, you combine them into something better that either one could be alone. It's the same idea in the Matrix trilogy again, where you take the computer world and the Matrix world, and you take the human world, and neither one of them can survive alone, and they combine to make something better than either one of them could be. Evolution.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the idea.
history dictates otherwise that there will be dictators and evil people that are trying to take more than their share. That's what's going to end up happening here. There's going to be you're going to have one person, Ray, talking about, bringing balance and gray, and there's going to be somebody else who's going to be like, I wish this bitch just shut the fuck up. That's what's going to be happening. Okay? There's no two ways about it.
Maybe not, Jay. Maybe Snoke will be able to be brought back to the light. Maybe Kylo Ren will be able to brought back to the light. Maybe the Jedi will end and the good parts of the Force will combine with the dark side of the Force and they'll create some new thing that's somewhere in the middle. I don't know. I think that's an interesting idea. I think it's fresh. They haven't done it. I think expanding upon that whole thing is essential for the future of the franchise rather than going back to yet another fucking Death Star. Rinse, wash, repeat cycle.
You are absolutely correct on that, and it is something that's moving forward, which is what I always ask in these movies that are sequels are continuing the universe, that they keep expanding and pushing the boundaries into different and interesting areas. So yes, I think it is needed. um, I'm not really sure how that's all going to play out, but certainly if that opens up a whole new world of creating new and better Jedi, if you will. um, But you know how I feel about this Sith thing. I just don't see how that really works out. I don't see.
I don't either, but who knows? I mean, that's the thing. That's what they have to do. If they intend to make this gray Jedi thing a thing,
So you think Rey's gonna walk up to Kylo and Kylo's gonna be sitting there? Which, by the way, he seems to have an anger issue. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Crazy people here. You don't want Kylo Ren at your fucking dinner. Okay, we're not gonna be sharing pot roast with him because you're gonna be like, listen, Kylo. He's gonna ask you. He's gonna be like this. Bill, did you see Legion? And you're gonna be like this, yeah, Kylo, I saw it. I really thought it sucked. I couldn't really get past episode 2. And Kylo's gonna be like, it was one of my favorite top shows of 2017. And he's gonna pull out his lightsaber and cut the table in half. I mean, fuck. He's not stable.
Darth Vader killed hundreds of people, and throughout the first 3 films, and at the end of Return of the Jedi, he did the ultimate thing, which was to kill the Emperor and tell his son he loved him. So, is it
You know,
impossible for them to come back from the dark side? I don't believe so.
you know what I call that, Bill? That's called in today's society a mitigating factor. So instead of getting the death penalty, he gets life in prison. Luckily, he died, so he doesn't have to sit there and serve the rest of his life enlightened in chains. But there's that's what's going to happen. There's no sorry, and you get to walk around in the free streets of America. Okay, so I mean, I think Kylo can come back from it, but I don't know if Rey walking up to him and going, by the way, the Jedi rules have changed. We're allowed to fuck now. Okay? So, hey.
I'm
And
just
Kylo's going to be
saying.
like, that's interesting, Rey, because as a Sith, I'm allowed to drink and fuck anytime I want. Okay? And kill. So, what else do you have to up the ante for me as to why I should come back and join your sect?
And
I mean,
maybe there won't be a resolution like that. I mean, that has been done already, but redemption is a theme that sort of runs throughout the entire saga. Is it necessarily going to be redemption in the way we know it to be? Maybe Kylo will die at the end and then his Force ghost will somehow come back enlightened. And he will just
so do
go
you
around being like
think we're
the
going to wrap
Obi-Wan.
this? Okay, let me ask you this. We're going to wrap this up here. I always say that, but then keep going. Do you think that possibly what the history will show is that Luke tried to train Kylo and the rest of these other young Jedis in these old archaic rules. And when Kylo kind of went crazy and wiped out the rest of these people, do you think that made him disillusioned? Like maybe these methods and teachings just don't work?
Yes, I think that seems to be an element of it. Now, I don't know for sure whether that's true or not, but it seems to me that part of that is where they're going. Yes. Or something else turned Luke off. Obviously, that would seem to be the most obvious thing from what we've seen so far in The Force Awakens. We can move on from this particular discussion really quickly. I just want to cover two elements of that.
I actually hope they change the rules and where they make it to where there can be more than 2 Sith. I feel like that's archaic. Maybe we can have like 15 of those assassins rolling around. I think that would be cool.
And perhaps that's part of it too. Perhaps the Sith, when the Jedi say that Anakin's birth and Anakin or whoever the chosen one is in their belief will bring balance to the Force, they think it means to eradicate the Sith. And maybe that's not the answer. Maybe they need to sort of accept some elements of the Sith's teachings, and therefore the balance will return. Like I said, the prophecy could have been wrong. But the only thing I'm thinking right now, as far as episode 8 and 9, that I really want to touch on before we stop the Star Wars discussion, because we've been going on for a while, is that one, I'm very disappointed to find out from Celebration that Billy D. Williams is not going to be in episode 8. At least they're playing it close to the vest, and he's even come out and said I'm not in it. That bothers me. And in episode 9, that they've decided to exclude Leia altogether.
Yes.
That bothers me because she was clearly going to be they were clearly leading towards some kind of reconciliation or some kind of reunion between her and Kylo. And maybe that happens in 8 and I just don't know it. But they were obviously on some other path for her to be in episode 9. She was going to be a major character in that movie, and now they've completely rewritten whatever they were going to do for her.
Yes,
that is not
they told us that they were going to have her in there and use the old footage, correct? But now they said, you know what?
That was her brother that came out and said that, and then Kathy Kennedy gave an interview right at Celebration that said he must have been mistaken. Maybe he thought we were talking about 8, but she is no longer in 9 because they went back and wrote her out of 9. Now, how they're going to reconcile that with episode 8, because she apparently does play a larger role in episode 8, and I keep hearing things that she's so great in episode 8, and she's got, a lot to do in episode 8, et cetera, et cetera. I just feel like I don't know the answer. I don't know if the answer. One thing I don't ever want them to do, and I've heard bandied about by other people, like what they did with the what's that old woman from The Matrix that died?
Yeah, I can't remember the black lady's name.
The character's name, though.
The Oracle?
The Oracle, right. That they recast her because the woman died. Well, in that movie, you could kind of explain that a little bit because it's a computer simulated world.
And computer generated,
right.
Sure.
But this is not the same thing. And for them to sort of, the idea of recasting her is horrible to me. It's the worst possible outcome they could possibly do. Even beyond writing her out, I don't want them to recast her. I mean, the woman's been in 5 other films. She's synonymous. It would be like them recasting Han Solo if, God forbid, something had happened to Harrison Ford before The Force Awakens. You just don't do it. There are certain people, certain roles that can't be recast. And it's not to say that an actress of great quality could not bring a believable and moving performance to it. It's just that certain people are iconic and you cannot, there are certain people you just can't recast. And I would think for me, the big 3 are one of those. Please, God, don't let them recast.
Maybe with a new Leia, I won't get this. But God, I love this a lot.
You're such a dick. Dick. But the other thing is, being that we've lost Carrie Fisher, we've lost the role of Leia, the fact that they willfully have chosen not to put Billy D. Williams in the movie bothers me too, because it's like these people are not getting any younger, and if they're going to hopefully hold out until episode 9 to give us Billy D. Williams, God knows what will happen to him between now and then. We don't know. He's old, and he's a little feeble. Okay, let's get these people in the can while they're still functioning so that we can have that reunion with that character who's just as beloved as the first, the original three in many ways. So I'm disappointed that they don't have him in 8 when they had an opportunity to put him in there. And I certainly hope he stays healthy enough to be in episode 9 because if they don't put in episode 9, I'm going to be really pissed. I'm already pissed. That's the end of that diatribe.
Okay. Well, what's going to be very upsetting for you is when what's her name? Oh my, I can't. What's her name? Carrie
Who?
Fisher's character, Leia.
Leia, yeah.
General Leia, when they have her walk into the back room after she says launch the missiles, and then the camera pans out, and then the planet explodes.
Yeah, that's not going to be acceptable to me on any level either.
I know that's really gonna, you know, you're gonna want to wait for that emotional scene where she gives some sort of last sage advice, where she sits there and goes, "Ray, remember, I'll always be with you, and always attack on the left side," or some shit like that. You're gonna hope that she gets some sort of
Oh,
massive line at the end to say goodbye, but
I don't care if they have to cobble together dialogue from other movies to make her a Force ghost and she just appears in voiceover form uh, to Ray at some point after whatever way they write her out in physical form happens. I don't care if they CG her. I really don't. If they have to CG her, I'd rather them CG her than recast or not put her in the movie. I mean, there are certain conceits you just have to make. The woman's dead. She can't do another movie, but the character still lives. And we have to find a way to satisfactorily wrap up that character's story. And to just have her off camera for the third movie just doesn't seem satisfactory to me. When there's other ways they could use to go about concluding her story. So,
okay. Um, Bill, let us move on. I actually enjoyed that conversation very much.
good.
Very happy. It's time to finish this off with a little bit of two more things. We're going to do Le Cinema du Revue of a Deux Semaines. I'm not going to spend too long on it, but I saw three movies over the past couple weeks. I
Okay.
saw Lion, the Academy
Right.
Award nominated film,
Right.
starring, I think, Dave Patel, Muna, what's her name? Ra Mooney Ra, Nicole Kidman,
Oh, what? What happened?
about the Indian kid who gets lost and gets adopted by an Australian couple. Then 25 years later is able, through like Google and other internet devices, able to find his parents. It made me cry, Bill. I actually cried.
Is there any superpowers?
Oh, no superpowers.
Do
No,
they sing?
no singing.
Is there an
No, no,
animated segment?
no Bollywood shit. No Bollywood in there.
Is
Nope.
there an animated segment?
Not a single animated scene whatsoever.
I can't think of one reason for me to watch this movie.
Okay. All right. I'm just saying it was very good. It's a bit of a tearjerker, very touching. I also saw the Founder movie with Michael Keaton about how
Oh
Ray
yeah, about the
Kroc stole
McDonald's
the
guy.
McDonald's idea
Right.
um, from the McDonald's brothers and
Okay.
left them penniless.
Sounds like an
Um,
uplifting weekend flick.
I determined something after watching that movie, that I think Michael Keaton is like one of those cool actors for me, where he can actually play like a comedy role. He can play a good guy, and he can play a hell of a villain. Like, he has such range for me. And it's amazing at the time when Mr. Mom was cast as Batman, how I remember the uproar of going like, he's Mr. Mom, he can't be Batman. Michael Keaton can sell a lot of shit, and I think he's really underappreciated. So I'm looking forward to his role as Vulture, and I hope they really take some of the chains off of him and do some good stuff with that though. Um, I also saw Sing, the animated movie. I also like that. What can I tell you?
I feel like there's something in your water today. What are you drinking?
I don't know. There's a lot of positive things going on. I mean, the Lion thing, I mean, that's definitely 4 stars. The Founder 3, Sing was 3. I mean,
Wait,
you know
wait.
what it was?
Are you still doing the stars rating system? I thought they eliminated that.
They have, I don't know what's going on with the system, but certain things are the thumbs up. Like some old stuff that I rated long ago, when I go back on it, there's no ratings on it. So I actually have to like redo it. I have to hit the thumbs up or thumbs down again. But on
Okay.
some of the new things that are coming out, like these discs that I'm getting, there's still star ratings. So I think maybe it might be a slow rollout. I haven't
Okay.
seen any articles about it, but it's not like the system has completely just revamped overnight,
Right. Okay.
which
So
is kind of
what
an
about Sing, which seems to me to be like the worst paplum sort of animated dribble that looking at the trailer made me feel like, oh, this just looks like every reason why I don't want to watch animated movies, except for Pixar and Disney proper.
well,
So
it certainly
why?
has that whole Smurfs. This looks like nothing but like fart jokes, Angry Birds movies. It looks like commoner animation, dribble, low rent, one note humor. And I think there is some parts of that, but I think I found some charm in the singing
You don't even
and some
like
of the songs.
musicals.
I don't, but some of the songs were updated songs. They were very cool songs. And I think I have an interest of, like having a snail sing karaoke and a snail is singing like, I got to run, run like the wind. It's just kind of the juxtaposition of a snail and run like the wind. I find that shit to be kind of humorous. You
You
know,
are always talking about the basic humor and how basic it is. How more basic does it have to be than a snail singing Born to Run?
I know. It is basic, but it's a good song. I like that. You know what it is? I liked some of the songs. They did I'm Still Standing by Elton John. Love I'm Still Standing by Elton John. I'm
Was
still
it sung by
standing.
some kind of pig in a wheelchair? I mean, was that the yuck yuck of that one?
You know what? I don't think handicap jokes are funny. Okay,
No,
that's
I'm
just
I'm asking since their humor seems to be the incongruity between the song and the character. Then is it all like that? The whole movie is just sort of songs
no,
about doing the
it's not
opposite of what
all
you do.
it's not all like that, but I think I was attracted to the use of updated songs. It kind of hit me. It's like hit music that I listened to at the gym being put in a movie, and it was integrated well, and I liked it. The only
So
problem I was going to have with the movie, which I already told you about, was the fact that there was an ape in the movie, and that the ape was part of a criminal family, and I was going to be very upset if it had that sort of Ebonic slang in it. And I'm like, this is just so typical. And the movie would have got 1 star, and I would have shut it off. But the ape family of criminals had a British accent, so therefore they were able to keep me watching past the first 10 minutes.
so British accents can make you accept a character who could be a racial stereotype as long as it has a British accent. You're okay.
What I'm saying is it's a standard racial stereotype that all blacks are criminals, and so therefore if it's black and criminal, it just seems like low hanging fruit. And if you're going to make a black ape criminal and then give it a quote black voice, it's just the highest of all stereotypes. Okay, I mean let's.
But a
I mean
snail singing "Run Like the Wind" is not low-hanging fruit.
yes, Bill, because that's not a racial or sexual or handicap category. Nobody
No,
gets
it's
discriminated
worse. What is
because
it?
they run.
Basic. That's what it is.
Last I
Basic.
checked, the civil rights law. It doesn't say will not discriminate against race, sex, and people who don't run fast. Okay.
Okay. Here's listen. You like what you like. I'm not gonna dispute what you like with you, but I don't understand how you can like this musical movie because it's animated makes it somehow palatable to you when there's thousands of musical movies you won't even deem to watch because you can't stand people singing in movies. Somehow the animation takes that element away from it for you. It's
Listen,
nonsense to me.
I didn't like Zootopia. I didn't like the Angry Birds movie, and most of these animation movies that come out, like the Smurfs, they're just all crap. Sing just happened to be one of those things that actually just made it through. That wasn't a Pixar film. So, I mean, what can I say? I think it's managed to find a little sweet spot in my heart with the singing, and it just worked.
But you
I'm
would
just
rather eat broken glass than watch Moulin Rouge through all the way.
absolutely. I don't think I've ever seen Moulin Rouge all the way through. I think I probably only watched maybe like 5 or 10 minutes of Moulin Rouge.
So
Can't
what makes Sing get a pass, but Moulin Rouge doesn't get one?
because when I go to the gym and I'm playing my music, some of that music was in the movie.
Okay.
So, I mean, I like my songs and they play the songs in the movie. It's almost as they know I know that these songs are cool and it's this movie goes, "You know what, Jay? These songs are cool. We're going to put them in this movie." I'm like, "I know. It validates how cool and how hip I am right now, Bill."
Oh,
That's what
good
it
God.
does.
Okay.
So, as I'm getting to box office receipts, I'm sitting here clicking on an article on MSN talking about Blockbuster, how it went bankrupt in 2010 and had to close 300 stores.
Yeah.
And apparently, there is still a franchise owner out there that owns Blockbuster stores. His name is Alex Payne. Alan Payne, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And today he owns 9 of the last 12 Blockbusters left in the entire country.
Okay.
There were once 9,000 worldwide. Um, he owns 9 of them.
Okay.
I'm not really sure. I think some of them are up in Alaska.
They don't get fiber optic cable in Alaska. They don't have Wi-Fi up there.
He says, quote, "I feel like a lot of the customers that just want to come in and feel like they're somewhere special. They love the customer service and they love the interaction." Before we move on to box office receipts, in the Hellmouth over here, we have family video.
Right.
And I can tell you right now, I do not love the customer service and I do not love the interaction. In
So why do
fact,
you
it
go
is
there?
one of the things I hate the most
So why do you go there?
because I need access to a movies that Redbox does not offer me, and that Vudu seems to overprice it to where I feel like it's not a good deal for me, even if I have the money in front of me. I find it's not a good deal because when I go to Family Video and I'm waiting there with my movie in hand, there's always some sort of family of 7 in front of me, and the lady is sitting there talking to him, going like this: "Oh, you know what? I saw Assassin's Creed, and it's a really good movie. You're gonna really have a good time with this." And they're like, "Really? It looks really cool with a lot of action scenes." And they're like, "Oh yeah." And Michael Fassbender's in it. And they're like, "Ooh, Michael Fassbender's in it?" They're like, "Yeah. I mean, trust me. And if you don't like it, just bring it back and we'll exchange it out. But I think you're gonna love it." And in the back, I'm just sitting there making myself an imaginary gun, pointing it to
Wow.
my
I
head,
don't know if you
shooting
should.
myself.
Okay. Here's the thing. I mean, these are probably
Fuck.
the only other customers this store actually has besides you. So perhaps if you see their car in the parking lot, you should just drive around the block a few times and then try going back in. Because surely it'll probably be completely empty once they leave. Right?
Fair.
Seems
Yeah.
like an easy
Yes.
fix.
Yes. Fair enough. Okay. Let's pull up the sounds and let's ready. Oh, that wasn't loud enough. How about we do this?
That was better.
Box office receipt, Bill.
Okay.
It's been a while since we looked at the estimates.
Okay.
For the weekend of April 21 through the 23rd of 2017, I can't believe we're always at the end of April and start of May. We're getting older day by day. The number one movie, guess it for me.
I'm not really down with what's out right now, so I don't feel like I can really do that.
I understand that. The Fate of the Furious.
Oh, right. Something I completely ignored, but the rest of the country seemed to run towards. Correct.
It pulled in another 38 million.
But
Okay.
it dropped like 61% from its opening week is what I heard from last week.
I'm
So,
sorry. I couldn't hear you over the 908 million it's made worldwide.
oh, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't understand it, but maybe these are things that aren't for me to understand.
And I guess that's why Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham are getting a spinoff.
Right, because, money begat money.
Do you think that Tyrese and Ludacris are sitting on the side going, "How come we don't get our spinoff?" Do you think that conversation's come up?
I think there's probably some feelings about it. I think there probably is some perhaps slight feeling of awkwardness on the set, which would be understandable. But I mean, if you're not The Rock and you're not Vin Diesel, those are the two like above the line headliners for that series, right?
Sure.
Then I don't think anybody associated with a movie that makes $900 million is really
Hold
too
on one
angry.
second. Shut up! I'm sorry, I don't have a mute button on my microphone.
Your parenting skills are just off the charts.
Listen, I'm black, and this is how we roll over here in Youngstown. Okay, that's what
Lovely.
we
Okay.
do.
What was number two?
The Boss Baby.
Ugh,
They pulled in
again,
another $12 million.
I can't.
Um,
I can't. When
now,
you
see,
talk to me in
but
6 months and tell me that you thought Boss Baby was hysterically funny,
no,
we're gonna have
no, no,
problems with our friendship.
no. I don't find it to be. I've watched the trailer, and when it comes out, I will watch it. I find it to be quite annoying. Okay, it looks annoying. It looks kind of stupid. It looks kind of. I don't know what the word.
It's every reason I have a policy of only watching Pixar and Disney proper because there might be some hidden gems, as you like to call them, in amongst the crap that is spewed out by other studios. But I'm not in the mood to take the risk. And I know that I go to a Disney proper or a Pixar movie, I have a 90% chance of at least saying it was passable, and I won't feel like pulling my eyeballs out after 10 minutes of it.
Don't
So
worry. There's going to be a Boss Baby 2 because it's got $358 million worldwide. Be prepared for that. Boss
that's
Baby 2.
fine. I will be prepared to ignore it as hard as I did the first one.
So Beauty and the Beast was number 3, bringing its total worldwide cumulative money intake
1.1.
to 1.1 billion. I guess
Oh,
you'll be getting that Beauty and the Beast prequel. I see.
yes, and you know what? I'm thrilled for it. I think it totally deserves the financial gains it's getting, and it gives Disney more impetus to do more of these live action adaptations. There's only, the Renaissance films that I care about, but the Jungle Book and some of the older school ones, a lot of people will give them a lot of money for it. So I think it's smart
Do
of
you
them.
think they'll do a live action Rescuers film anytime soon? Will that happen?
I don't know, but I mean, they're doing a live action Aladdin directed by, um, oh crap, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Guy Ritchie.
Mhm.
How do you feel about Will Smith as Genie?
Will Smith or Kevin Hart? Yeah,
Kevin Hart passed on it, so
yeah. Will Smith, it's fine.
okay.
I don't think. I mean, it would be casting Will Smith as a genie would be a certain like really current casting of popular people. I don't know.
It's just so weird. It's so not Guy Ritchie's aesthetic. A Disney musical is like the polar opposite of a Guy Ritchie movie. So I guess that was the point, and to try to bring some edginess to something that you wouldn't expect him to do. But I just hope he doesn't give it like the Guy Ritchie once over in which Aladdin's walking around capping people in the street fair.
Yeah, we know the Mouse House won't allow that. Is it
So
true that they're doing some sort of Avengers? No, what is it? Man from Uncle 2?
I heard there is a script in the writing stage. Yes.
So the people just don't listen, huh?
Well, I'm not exactly the most what do I want to say, impartial party here, because anytime you put Henry Cavill in a suit, you can consider that ticket sold.
Listen, but outside of your basic sexual needs, this is just not like a good call here. That's just not. But maybe it made enough cheddar. I mean, if we're going to be doing a Man from Uncle 2, we should be doing Dread 2 as far as I'm concerned. If we're just going to greenlight any old shit, fuck it. Just throw Dread 2 up there while we're at it then.
I'll tell you what. How about you remove the soundtrack and all the other characters, and still just have Henry Cavill walking around in a suit? I'm still buying that ticket.
You know what? That probably might make more money than Man from Uncle 2. I can tell you
Hey,
that right now.
I'm not going to complain.
Born in China was number 4. It brought in 5 million over here in the U.S. of A.
Yeah, that's the Disney nature documentary about panda bears, I think. Oh, you know what? You say that now, and as soon as it hits your Netflix queue, you're going to watch it and be like, I watched that panda movie and it was great.
I'm
Okay.
not watching Born in China, Bill.
Okay.
I
Why
mean, I
not? You have something
support.
against documentaries now, but you can do
No, the PCP
animated
is a big fan of
musicals?
China, but unfortunately, I do not watch Born in China movies because it just
You have
looks
something
like
against Chinese people?
I got no time for that type of bullshit. Let's just keep it like it is. I got no time.
Right. Well, because you have to make room for Sing too. So
All right. And number 5, going in style with Alan Arkin, Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman, and Matt Dillon. Can't believe this shit. It
is
pulled in
this
another
like
5 million.
Grumpy Old Men or what was it, Expendables or something?
Listen, I still haven't watched the trailer,
Okay.
but in 3 weeks, it's brought in 31 million on a budget of 25.
Oh, it's not bad.
And I guess if you look at its worldwide gross, it's up to 50 million.
Well, good for them.
Yeah, it's good for them. Now, some other things that opened that seemed to get lost in the shuffle was Unforgettable.
Which seemed to be quite forgettable, actually. Ironically.
It didn't even it can't even beat out Smurfs The Lost Village, which has been out for 3 weeks, which really says something about your shit. There was also a movie called The Promise, came in at number 9. So
In
Christian
its
Bale has
debut, wait,
chosen.
its opening weekend, it came in at number 9. Right.
Its production budget was 90 million.
Yes, and it's made how much so far?
4 million.
I just don't want them to hold it against Oscar Isaac. That's all I want.
You know, I don't want this to be the Gong Show, but when I look at the production of 90 million, it's almost like I just want to walk into the studio and just say, listen, I want to do some shit where I want to put a camera on a leaf and then just like follow it around for long scenes and then put it on a shot of a person crying and then like, see somebody doing dishes and there's an explosion and then lights out, movie's over. Can I get 50 million to film that? Special effects and all that shit. And they're like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. That's what I feel like with The Promise. 90 million fucking dollars, 4 millions on opening week. Christian Bale, instead of being Batman, he has chosen to do this, something that you and maybe me will watch.
I won't watch this because I don't care.
Fuck.
I do like Oscar Isaac. I do like Christian Bale, but I have a very narrow range of films that get me to see them, and there really isn't anything about this that looks appealing to me. So out it goes. But
Oh,
I
also, the Lost City of Z also this is the second week out, by the way.
and
It's
it made
number 10 after The Promise for a total of $2 million. The movie,
I
by
mean
the way, is 2 hours and 20 minutes long.
this is the kind of thing that makes the argument against studios doing mid-level films somewhat valid, in my opinion, because no one goes to see them, and they've spent $90 million on some kind of period motion picture in which they're going to lose their fucking shirts. And I just think
You
there is
know,
an
it's it.
argument for the fact that this kind of shit belongs on Netflix anymore. And if
Yeah.
you can't get it on Netflix, then don't bother me.
Well, this is what I'm talking about. If this is what you're going to be doing, the name of the game is the blockbusters. If you're not going to be in those films, then you probably should be putting your money towards Netflix shows because I find it to be like I don't think anybody here, director Terry George or Christian Bale or Isaac Isaac, should be held against because nobody told you to spend 90 million on this and expect that somehow on a weekend where the weather is breaking and it's getting nice out that people are going to go see The Promise instead of the Beauty and the Beast, Boss Baby, and The Fate of the Furious. I mean, if you're trying to get laid, The Promise ain't going to get you laid. I can tell you that right now. Okay,
Well,
it's not going to
it
happen.
again, it's the business model has to evolve. The business model is moving towards the tent poles only, and I know there's a lot of movie fans out there that decry that movement, but as a casual moviegoer like myself that does only really go to blockbuster movies, I kind of feel like there's an argument to be made that if you can't give me a reason to leave my house other than something I can watch the same level of production values on my TV, then I think you should put it on my TV. I think Netflix should buy this movie and put it on Netflix. I guess that's the end of the show.
So what do you think we should? We should probably call it something in reference to The Last Jedi. What do you think?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Midichlorians or bust? The future of Star Wars? ?
Oh, so you're gonna make me look up how to spell midichlorians?
Really? Google is too hard for you?
Fuck.
You can find all the porn on the
downstairs-
internet.
That dog downstairs is really trying my patience. God damn it.
Well, it's time for us to wrap this up because I got to pee anyway.
All right, Bill. I've enjoyed my time with you. Hopefully, all our fans will enjoy the show. Shout out to Superfan Nadia, Melissa. Always appreciate your comments and your support, as well as to the rest of our fans out there in the UK, as well as in France, as well as the other 50 U.S. states.
Listen, bitch, what
USA.
part of I have to pee are you not getting? Can we wrap this up?
Okay, I've been your co-host, Payne.
I'm Bill, and I'm off to the pot. I'm going to call Europe on the big white telephone.
Peace out.
Bye. Thank you.